Chapter 321 Crown Prince Rebels _5. Indeed, it is I. Chun Sansi controlled his tone and manner to ensure it was completely different from his usual self. Hero Zhang. Yun Xiaozi narrowed his eyes warily and said, Our incense fire divine sect bears no grudge against you. Why then do you repeatedly rob our incense and kill our disciples? Your incense fire divine sect robs the divine incense, deceiving the common folk. Everyone involved deserves death. Chun Sansi retorted, Don't think I don't know that you are instructed by the crown prince. Ah? Yun Xiaozi exclaimed in shock. How do you even know that? There's nothing in this world that I, Lai Zi, don't know about. Chun Sansi's face remained expressionless, but his mind began to race. He casually bluffed, and these two confessed. It really was the crown prince's doing. The reason he had come today was partly because he needed more incense to advance his sword chi skill to the next stage, and partly because he truly wanted to understand what the crown prince was plotting. After all, this place was a battlefield. He had to ensure no one was causing mischief behind his back. Yun Xiaozi's face kept changing colors. He had planned to kill him and silence him, but considering the speed with which the opposed absorbed the incense, which indicated daunting capabilities, he ultimately didn't dare to make a rash move. He tentatively asked, Hero Zhang, why the trouble? Must you oppose us and His Highness? With your capabilities, why not join us? Once our plan succeeds, you'll be credited with a colossal help. A colossal help? Chun Sansi seemed to stumble upon some incredible information unintentionally. The incense god sect was aligned with the crown prince. Then they mentioned a colossal help. The crown prince, planning a revolt to commit patricide? He maintained a calm demeanor. Nonsense. I am a seeker of immortality. I have no interest in the affairs of the court. Hero Zhang, don't be hasty in rejecting. Yun Xiaozi said, How about this? Let me report back to His Highness. And since His Highness will surely appreciate someone of your stature, the terms he offers might not be easily refused by you. Chun Sansi didn't answer and made a gesture as if he was about to act. Why must it come to this? Yun Xiaozi backed away continuously. Hero Zhang, how about this? Meet us at the Mountain God Temple in Taihu Prefecture 4 months from now. Then, depending on whether you are satisfied with the conditions, it's not too late to decide on cooperation. Right? Ling Shuzi followed up. Since you are not interested in the affairs of the court, you presumably won't disclose this matter. As for the rest, we can negotiate slowly when the time comes. Taihu Prefecture. Chun Sansi, who looked at maps day and night, knew exactly where it was. Next to Taihu Prefecture was Ziwei Mountain. That is to say, if the crown prince were to stage a revolt, he would choose to act in Ziwei Mountain, which meant on the condition that he had regained control of 3 states. Originally, the information from the Seeking Immortal Tower was correct. The Incense God sect was indeed planning something major in Capital City. Only this capital city was not a place but a person, the Emperor. To show our sincerity, Yun Xiaozi produced a miniature incense burner from his robes. These incenses, consider them a meeting gift for Hero Zhang. For past incidents, our incense fire divine sect promises not to pursue them. How about it? TCH. Chun Sansi glared and said, Then don't dawdle. Get lost. Quickly, let's go. Yun Xiaozi and his companion exchanged looks, then quickly retreated. After Chun Sansi confirmed they were far away using his chi observation skill, he began examining the incense burner on the ground. The miniature one was no bigger than the size of a palm, but it was surrounded by purple energy and full of incense, with a blood-red mark under it as well. This incense is enough for the sword chi skill to break through. He took out Shenju and absorbed all the incense, then casually discarded the incense burner. It had marks on it, carrying it would make him be tracked. Moreover, after experimenting, the spiritual grain obtained from the burner wasn't better than that from the mystic iron furnace because it wasn't meant for alchemy to begin with, so there was no use in keeping it. As for ointments, he wasn't lacking now. Today's venture was quite fruitful. Still, Why did the crown prince have to choose Ziwei Mountain for the revoltext of all places? Upon further thought, he understood. Whether it was a coup or a revolt, one needed enough men at hand, and the crown prince's influence within the capital city surely couldn't surpass the old emperor's. Even around the capital, mobilizing troops would be too conspicuous and easily detected. But Ziwei Mountain was just the right place. After the battle, the emperor would surely come to offer sacrifices. And with the battle over the three states just ended, having troops there was nothing out of the ordinary, plus the early arrival under the radar of people like Pei Tiannan made everything logical. Still, the battle wasn't over yet, and the crown prince was already laying the groundwork. What if the subsequent battles were lost, or if they failed to recover the three states? Would he still force the palace issue? Never mind. These things had nothing to do with him. For Chun Sansi, the one who poisoned him, the old emperor who had endured 10 miserable days in Yunzhou, deserved death. The crown prince who used living people for sacrifices wasn't any better. It made no difference who was emperor to him. The only thing worth considering was whether in the future, while ensuring his own safety, it was possible to swindle more benefits from the hands of the incense-fire divine sect. And it seemed Yun Xiaozi had mistaken him for some great master. Of course, Chun Sansi wasn't purely pretending. His qi observation skill allowed him to judge strength. The mystical energy within Yun Xiaozi wasn't even more potent than his own. If it really came to a fight, it would merely be a matter of killing him with the sword qi skill. The imperial family really lacked kinship. After a brief moment of reflection, Chun Sansi left the grand hall and vaulted out of the temple, merging into the darkness again. No matter how big the uproar, the immediate battle still had to be fought. Chapter 322. Crown Prince Rebels _6. Fortunately, it was certain that unlike Yunzhou, where the emperor personally plunged the knife, one could let go and make full use of their abilities. According to his judgment, the situation in the Eastern Territory was still far from optimistic. Whether it was troops or high-ranking generals, dashing was somewhat lacking. On paper, dashing was undoubtedly the strongest, but being surrounded by enemies on all sides and needing to attend to every front was an extremely arduous task. That Deng Feng, if only he could surrender, it would be of great help for the upcoming situation. Moreover, Chun Sansi had carefully investigated. This man was a valuable character, one of the few good officials in this era who did not oppress the civilians or engage in corruption. It was for this reason that he was exiled from the capital city to the borderlands several years ago. While he was a good man, such people often had a strong backbone. If it weren't for being well-prepared and calling Cui Tsongyi and Sha Wenlong to go in together, he would have succeeded in his suicide just a moment later. Whether he could be persuaded to join was also something that could only be tried. If it really came to it, then so be it. On the battlefield, if one couldn't be a friend, they could only be an enemy. After returning to his assigned quarters, Chun Sansi did not make any fuss but seized the time to practice the sword qi skill all night long. Magic, sword qi skill, proficient. Progress, 855/1000. Only when the next day dawned did he speak. Xie Gong, go fetch General Deng's archives and all the records of his life's deeds for me. Yes. General Deng, why don't you surrender? It would be beneficial for everyone. Sha Wenlong, holding the Iron Thorn's whip in his hand, looked impatiently at Deng Feng, who had taken off his armor and was left only in a blood-stained undergarment robe, and said, "You know the rules. It's too much trouble to keep high-ranking generals captive, so usually, if they don't surrender within 7 days, they will be beheaded and shown to the public." Not only was Deng Feng entirely bound by mystic iron chains, but now his hands and feet were also nailed to a cross-shaped wooden stake. He kept his eyes tightly shut, without uttering a word. "Deng Feng," Sha Wenlong reprimanded, "you, a defeated general, have even been promised a marquisate by the great Shang court. What more could you be dissatisfied with? Well, I recognize your stubbornness. What about your family? Bring in the Deng family members." Soon, a dozen or so family members, young and old, including 2 sons, 3 daughters, as well as his elderly mother and concubines, were pushed and shoved into the tent. Deng Feng turned a deaf ear. "General Deng," Sha Wenlong said, "it would be one thing for you to die alone, but do you really want to drag down your wives and children along with you?" This time, Deng Feng finally opened his eyes, but rather than begging for mercy, he scoffed and said, "Hurry up and kill them. Kill them all with me." "You?" Sha Wenlong was taken aback, never expecting that even this move would not work. "Kill them." Deng Feng was actually urging them on. "They lived off my blessing while they were alive. Now that I have been defeated, it is only right for them to die with me. Why won't you kill us?" "Fine, I will kill them for you to see." Sha Wenlong, who had been bottling up a bellyful of rage and looking for an outlet, was about to act when a young man in a white robe walked into the tent. "Sha Wenlong, that's enough." "Chun San, General Chen." Sha Wenlong, restraining himself from addressing him directly, said, "Deng Feng refuses to surrender. Just kill him. You may leave. Make sure General Deng's family is well cared for." Chan Sansi ordered. "If anyone, especially the women, suffers the slightest insult, I'll send a petition and execute your entire family." "Got it." Sha Wenlong, biting back his anger, led away the Deng family members. Chun Sansi then ordered Xia Tsong and the others to stay 200 steps away from the tent, forbidding anyone to come within 200 steps. "Chen," Deng Feng mocked, "do you think by taking care of my family, you can buy me over?" "No, I wasn't planning on buying your loyalty with this. I simply knew that killing you would be pointless, so I kept you alive, intending to kill you alongside me after 7 days, as a sign of respect for you," Chun Sansi said as he took a seat on the chair inside the tent and began perusing a few volumes of records, not in any hurry to continue talking. On the contrary, it was Deng Feng who couldn't hold back. He said resentfully, "Chun Sansi, I only lost to you by an hour. By dawn, you all are planning to retreat, aren't you? That means, in another hour, if the city doesn't descend into chaos, you lose." "Indeed, everything you said is correct." Chun Sansi paused. "But this hour is a chasm, an insurmountable natural barrier that you cannot overcome. You are destined to lose. This battle..." He didn't know where his confidence came from, but he truly had grasped a kind of military tactic, one that came not only from the deeds of sages but also from the understanding he gained through many large and small battles. Under the circumstances at the time, the common people and the defending army were simply seeking a way to survive. Since that way out had been provided, there was no point in continuing the defense. It was only because of Deng Feng's excessive prestige that they didn't open the gates the next day. They didn't even need to resort to the tactic of attacking from all sides. Enough! Deng Feng was tired of arguing. Victors beget kings, and losers bandits. Go ahead and kill me. Deng will never be disloyal or unfaithful. Loyalty and faithfulness, such noble virtues. Holding the document, Chun Sansi read, "General Deng, let me ask you one thing. What is the purpose of defending the city? Of course, it's to protect the people. Now that the city has fallen, have the citizens been harmed? Even this morning, several corrupt officials whom you previously didn't dare to touch due to their backing from the court were killed, and the common people are cheering. Doesn't this mean that the circumstances have improved for the people, Deng Feng? Or are you suggesting that General Deng believes you must continue the fight and see more civilians die in order to protect them?" Deng Feng changed his tune. "I did it to serve the court." "Oh." With the document in hand, Chun Sansi said, "In the year 192 of the Qingli era, when General Deng was only 16 and just beginning his career, you wrote a poem that shocked the literary world. Studying the sage teachings assiduously to stand by the people, continuing the lost studies to usher in peace. Holding a 3-foot green blade sword, sweeping away all corrupt beings in the world. So I want to ask, what is more important to General Deng, serving the court, or pursuing this grand aspiration you once set for yourself?" Deng Feng furrowed his brow. "Are these in conflict?" "Of course, they're in conflict," Chun Sansi continued. To my knowledge, in Qing country corruption is rampant. Taxes increase every year, and the people are in unspeakable misery, with at least a dozen uprisings each year. Given such a deeply entrenched and irreversible state of decay within the court, does General Deng believe it's possible to achieve the so-called everlasting peace? Even establishing a just society for the people and sweeping away all corrupt beings are unachievable, right? Otherwise, the officials in the city wouldn't have to wait for me to execute them. As such, doesn't serving the court and aiming for a peaceful world contradict each other? By continuing to serve Qing country, aren't you destroying your own grand aspirations? Or is it that? He paused for a moment, then suddenly raised his voice. General Deng is nothing but a glory-seeking, hypocritical pretender. All your actions are merely to preserve the so-called 6 generations of loyal service reputation. You're talking nonsense. Deng Feng, who had been as silent as a dead dog, finally had his nerves struck and burst out in anger. What right do you have to say that about me? Isn't it true? Chun Sansi stood up. Suppose, because of General Deng's brave and indomitable defense, Zhao Tong Prefecture City had been saved. Then, that prefect young master with a powerful family background, considered to be royalty in Qing country, could continue to harm the civilians, forcing himself on women. Even with numerous petitions filed by you, what good would that do? At worst, they would be dismissed or fined, but they could simply move to another place and continue their former deeds without any repercussions. All those victimized civilians, could they think that it was General Deng's defense that caused their suffering? Hence, aren't serving the Qing country court and striving for a world of peace in contradiction? As long as General Deng continues to serve as a general for Qing country, even 1,000 years would not be enough to realize your wish, right? Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Deng Feng found a loophole and began to fiercely counterattack. All this meaningless drivel, isn't it just to make me surrender? Corruption may be endless in Qing country and the people may suffer terribly. But what about Shang country? In Yunzhou alone, in just 10 days, even I can see that something's amiss. That's nearly 1 million civilians. If you want to talk about being rotten, Shang country is far worse. General Deng. Chun Sansi enunciated each word. Have I ever said that I am loyal to Great Shang? Or boasted about being a loyal martyr for Great Shang? Boom! Those words. They exploded in Deng Feng's mind like a thunderbolt from a clear sky. What do you mean by that? Chapter 323. The Battle of Hu Lao. General Deng. Why are you so surprised? Chun Sansi joked. Did you truly think I was fiercely loyal to Dashing? Is it not so? Deng Feng said seriously. Everything you have was given to you by the Emperor of Shang country. Given to me? Indeed, he gave me a goblet of poison. Chun Sansi found it amusing. I, Chun, initially had only one dream, to hunt to earn silvers, learn some martial arts, and honestly be a wealthy man. What happened, though? They step by step forced me to today's position, where bullies harm people unchecked, martial arts haul murders uninvestigated, and even after joining the army, there were those who hindered my advancement. The ensuing 10 days in Yunzhou, as General Deng said, indeed had significant issues. Such a big issue had to be created by someone of high position. No need for me to spell it out, right? From traveling on foot from Yunzhou to State, how many of my brothers died along the way? I remember each of their names, ferrying civilians across the river. Do you think I wanted this? I was forced. Such a court. You want me to be their loyal subject? Do they deserve it? Deng Feng was somewhat stunned. He couldn't believe it. This young general from Dashing, renowned worldwide after only 2 years in the army, actually didn't regard the court highly at all. General Deng. The things I'm about to say, if overheard, are crimes punishable by the execution of my entire clan, but I still need to discuss them with you. Chun Sansi moved closer, his voice not loud, yet deafening. Whether it's Qing country, Dashing, Nansu, or even the barbarian tribes, in fact, they are all utterly rotten. Although I serve as a general for Shang, everything I do is never for the so-called court. Firstly, it's for myself. Secondly, within my capabilities, to handle some matters I find intolerable, such as sect disciples, corrupt officials, but this is still not enough. There are still many things I can't handle. Just like the 10 days in Yunzhou you mentioned. Even if I know there's deception, what could I do? I could only pretend to be ignorant. What I can do is continually enhance my power, until no one dares to bully me. No one obstructs me. Only then can I truly call it, wielding a 3-foot green blade sword, slashing all the vile creatures of this world. I tell you so much, General, merely because I feel you are blinded by the so-called loyalty. Unable to see the real maladies of this world, precisely in the court you are loyal to, at this moment. Deng Feng, a warrior who had read saintly books since childhood, and was taught to be loyal to his country, found his worldview being utterly upended upon hearing these words. Putting all emotions aside temporarily, he couldn't help blurting out, "Are you planning a rebellion? When?" This time it was Chun Sansi who was at a loss for words. He hadn't thought about this problem until now. But the words he just said indeed seemed to imply that the old emperor's poison wine vendetta was definitely something he intended to avenge. But for now, that goal was still far off. To speak more practically, his next target was still the main general. After all, he wasn't even in the profound image realm, let alone a martial saint. Yet the emperor was an immortal. The gap between them was simply too vast. "General Deng." Chun Sansi changed the topic. "Do you understand what I'm saying?" "Aye." Deng Feng's expression was extremely grave, clearly struggling to accept it for the time being. "Chun, according to you, the world is suffering because the court is rotten, not because of corrupt officials." "So," Chun Sansi said, "General Deng's loyalty and righteousness, is it truly to the common people, or just to a particular family or personal loyalties?" "No, you are wrong," Deng Feng said in agony. "The saintly books do not describe it as so. Receiving the ruler's favor and serving him loyally is the true truth." "Receiving the ruler's favor?" Chun Sansi asked yet again. "Where does the stipend the emperor gives you come from?" Boom! Deng was struck as if by lightning yet again. Saintly books are written by people, just as the martial saint is also a saint, but does that make their words the truth? At this point, Chun Sansi abruptly stopped. "Think it over, General. If you continue to be loyal to Qing country, aside from a hollow reputation of being loyal through 6 generations, what else can you gain? That said, I will not try to persuade you any further. If after 7 days you still proclaim yourself a loyal servant of the Qing country Shan family and the imperial family, then it means I have misjudged you, and you're nothing more than someone who fishes for fame. I will have them behead you and your family and hang your heads on the city walls for public display. Or, you could realize the truth, choose to stay alive to act, and wait for the day you can cleanse the world's filth. The decision is entirely up to you, General. Farewell." With those words, he left the tent, leaving a blood-stained Deng Feng hanging on the wooden stakes, plunged into boundless shock and confusion. A person like this, expecting him to betray one court and be loyal to another, is absolutely impossible. Chun Sansi knew this well, so he straightforwardly declared his stance. Practice. He returned to the city, relentlessly practicing his spear technique day and night. During this period, he sent out people like Xia Tsong to persuade the other 8 prefectures to surrender. Once the 8 prefectures learned that Zhaotong Prefecture had surrendered, naturally, there wouldn't be a speck of resistance. All of them willingly opened their city gates to welcome the army of Shang country. Thereby, only Yongyu Prefecture was still holding out. The 50,000 elite troops in Yongyu Prefecture, cultivated over many years by the alias King Li Gong, along with ample food and military supplies, meant that the morale of the troops was unlikely to waver significantly anytime soon, making surrender impossible. Chapter 324. The Battle at Hu Lao _2. The situation now. "Sir, would you like the map?" Xia Tsong had already prepared it. Chun Sansi nodded. Xia Tsong immediately spread out the map. Green Ridge Mountain. Except for the Emperor of Qing, I'm not sure if there are any other martial saints. Therefore, A tremendous military force needs to be deployed for defense, to block them outside Lai State. Additionally, we need to be ready to face the large army from Nanshu country that might appear at any time. Either rule independently or hold Hulao Pass for 3 to 5 months, waiting to consume Yongyu Prefecture and make the enemy withdraw. This is also the best method. However, looking at the current situation within Lai State, we can barely mobilize a few thousand troops in the short term, and those are still. Chun Sansi silently analyzed in his mind. He quickly reached a conclusion. If he were to defend Hulao, this task, likely costing him his life, would probably fall upon him. Whether to rule independently or to defend Hulao, it would depend on how much the emperor desires Ziwei Mountain.
Cultivation technique, National Gardien Dragon Spear, Méridien Passage, Advanced.
Progress 496/1000. Magic, Sword Chi Skill, Advanced. Progress 955/1000. In the blink of an eye, 2 days had passed. The progress in Chun Sansi's spear technique was about to exceed halfway, and his sword chi skill was on the verge of breakthrough. On the morning of the 3rd day, he had just stepped out of his residence when Yu Jike came to report. Sir, 20,000 Hu Ben army soldiers are rushing from Yongyu Prefecture. General Fan Tianfa has brought you the commander's military order. Qian Sun. Chun Sansi called out and mounted his horse, heading straight for the city gate. Chun Sansi, listen to the order. General Fan Tianfa, holding the commander's token, said, the large army from Nanshu country is threatening Hulao Pass. The commander orders you to lead your 3,000 black armor soldiers to Hulao Pass within 10 days, and at all costs, defend Hulao for 100 days. If not, bring your head to meet me. As expected, this burdensome task was his own again. Chun Sansi was mentally prepared. Chun Sansi, acknowledge the command. General Fan asked. General Fong will soon arrive to help you strategize. Besides that, is there anything else you need? Actually, it's pointless to ask. Given the current situation, even grain dispatch takes a long time. I can't really offer you much. I can just try my best. We're short of a general. Chun Sansi nodded. General Fan, I'm only at the Meridian Passage realm. Even if Hulao Pass is strategically critical, not having a general of the Xuanxiang realm is somewhat indefensible. If it's really impossible to reallocate someone else, please send Sha Wenlong to me. All right, I agree. General Fan did not refuse. Sha Wenlong's troops will immediately head with me to Green Ridge Mountain, and he will go with you to Hulao Pass. General Fan. At the side, Sha Wenlong almost blurted out. He had barely endured until Zhao Tong Prefecture fell. Was he supposed to stay and continue under the orders of a Meridian Passage general? Thank you, General Fan. Chun Sansi disliked the man as well. But there was no choice, he was short on people. Given the current situation, both the Crown Prince and the Emperor were keen on recapturing Ziwei Mountain. In the battlefield, Sha Wenlong would still obey, as it was for the benefit of his master. General Fan sincerely said, I hope you two can complete this mission and establish one of the few major merits in this battle. General Fan. Following behind him when no one else was around, Sha Wenlong spoke again. Could we possibly exchange for someone else? Even Cui Tsongi would do, as long as I don't have to go to Hulao Pass. I'd rather face death in battle. General Sha. General Fan cautioned. Now is not the time to act recklessly. Quickly recapturing 3 states not only concerns the future of the dashing, but also the major matters of the prince. If you follow Chun Sansi and really manage to hold it, you know what a great merit it would be. Obey the command. I understand. Sha Wenlong couldn't argue. I'm just worried that he'll use this opportunity for personal vendetta. Personal vendetta? General Fan countered. Tell me, what personal grudge exists between you two? Sha Wenlong was at a loss for words. That's enough. General Fan patted his shoulder. If he really dares to seek personal vendetta, after the war ends, you just file a petition against him. It's a serious crime. Enough. Hurry and prepare. Go! After marshaling his troops, he led his forces and marched off. Senior brother. Chun Sansi personally rode out for 5 miles to meet the mobility-impaired Fang Qingyun. Fang Qingyun, holding a flute, joked, "Junior brother, your grand presence is truly impressive. It is an eye-opener for me." "You flatter me, senior brother." Chun Sansi pushed him back to the tent. "There are 2 more days. Please help me analyze the upcoming situation at Hulao Pass. You know the details better than I do." The map was spread out. The two sat opposite each other. This time Nansu country seized the opportunity to invade with 100,000 troops, swarming in. Fang Qingyun recounted, "Among these 100,000, 50,000 are elite, with many at the Meridian Passage realm. The remaining 50,000 have not trained for long, but all are qualified array soldiers. Indeed, it is an overwhelming force and hard to stop. The enemy's only flaw is that they have no martial saint, but they indeed have 4 at the Xuanxiang realm. Among them, 2 are princes, the main commanders Fan Shuzhen and Fan Zhouxiao, who are the 8th and 14th sons of the current 14 princes of Nanshu. Besides, there is a marquis and 2 generals. Among the generals, Ran Jingxian merits a few words. Junior brother, are you acquainted with him?" "Of course," Chun Sansi expressed, "a top-ranked strategist in the world, following Wulong in Phoenix. This man, nicknamed Lingswan, is the son of Nanshu's top strategist, Zhong Hu Da." Chapter 325. The Battle at Hulao_3. In the 57th year of Longqing, the Great Chaos in the South originated from the scheming of Zhong Hu, severely damaging Daxing's vitality. However, Zhong Hu was aged and had retreated from the world many years ago, leaving his son, Ran Jingxian, who was gradually becoming prominent. For over a decade, Lingswan Ran Jingxian had established countless major and minor accomplishments within Nanshu country, even seizing 2 states from the enemy country at the southernmost border of Nanshu, gaining fame in one battle, and was considered one of the most famous martial figures in current Nanshu, even described as the unrivaled cunning Lingswan. Zhong, who was a lifelong adversary whom my master had battled against, the person he personally trained, should not be underestimated. Not to mention Ran Jingxian is no longer young, well past his prime, free from the impetuosity of youth. Fang Qingyun continued. Besides that, their commander, Fan Shuzhen, is also one of the 4 most competitive candidates among the many crown princes of Nanshu. He sends troops hastily here, also aiming to establish an unparalleled achievement in this battle to gain more say in future competitions. All in all, their 4 generals of the profound image realm are all high-ranking nobles of Nanshu with numerous meridian passages. And we only have Sha Wenlong. The difference on paper is quite substantial. "Brother, how is your sword chi skill coming along?" "Not bad," Chun Sansi candidly said. "Profound image realm. I should attempt it, though great success is rather difficult." Sword chi skill was taught to him by his master and senior brother, even the seeking immortal tower's spirit sand. They also knew about it since it was originally given to him as a life-saving trump card, making it unnecessary to hide. Fang Qingyun nodded. "All right, but it might still increase our odds somewhat." "Brother, even if we can kill Xuanxiang, can the sword chi skill really be used?" Chun Sansi wondered aloud. Immortal law on the battlefield, even if not seen, the death of the enemy general needs some explanation. Surely we can't claim I enhanced my realm to kill Xuanxiang. Fang Qingyun, holding a flute, pointed to himself. "Isn't this where I come in?" "You mean?" Chun Sansi understood. "Say it was you who used it?" "Exactly," Fang Qingyun indifferently said. "You're still young, but the master and I have long been unfearing of boiling water. The emperor has been watching us not just for a day or 2. Instead of him noticing you, better to keep his focus on us." "I understand." Only then did Chun Sansi realize. The transfer order to send Fang Qingyun, a man with a disability, to Hulao Pass was exactly counting on him to pull off some tactics, creating a few surprises. The old emperor really lives by the principle of using every talent to its full potential, employing every resource efficiently. But still, It's very difficult. After all, sword chi skill is a true immortal technique, and it hasn't been perfected to perfection. Its combat effectiveness is still inadequate. Fortunately, there are also Shenju beads to use, another card up the sleeve. General Deng. Chun Sansi arrived at the military tent. What's your decision? The disheveled Deng Feng, head drooping and eyes bloodshot, did not respond. Outside the tent, in the sky above, an eagle's cry echoed now and then. It was Li Gong reminding him to find a way to commit suicide and not disgrace Da Qing's honor, preserving the integrity of loyalty and valor. I said I wouldn't persuade you again. Just came to tell you I'm leaving. Chun Sansi said, tomorrow morning, I will be setting off for another place. You don't have as long as 7 days to decide. Deng Feng, without another word, Chun Sansi left, promptly starting a drill exercise with the Xuanjia army outside the city. For these individuals raised from childhood on saintly books with deeply ingrained teachings, if they changed their minds too quickly, that wouldn't be normal. After all, they were grappling with the doctrines of utter defiance, which naturally took some time to accept and digest. 3,000 Xuanjia army. Forming the Jiuxiao Heavenly Soldiers formation, they galloped and roared through the barren plains with an unstoppable momentum. Moreover, the white qi from Chun Sansi's Shenju became even denser. It seemed, with an 80% probability, this was manifested by a victorious momentum. After a tough battle that followed, it would confirm if it really matched the guesses. Such abundant white mystical energy, if used all in one go, will assuredly create an unexpected advantage. However, Nanshu after all has an army of 100,000. 3,000 special troops, no matter how formidable, can't possibly win head-on. But this would take one step at a time. Another night's rest. At 5 a.m., as the dawn broke, Ting Tong emerged. Chun Sansi, leading the 3,000 Xuanjia army, marched out of Hu Lao Pass. Within the detention tent, Sha Wenlong walked in, dragging a broadsword. The army was about to set off, unable to spare 2 men with meridian passage to guard a general. According to the rules, they could only execute him. Chun, however, couldn't do whatever he wanted. A few days earlier, alone in the tent, he'd talked on and on for half a day. But in the end, it was totally useless. Deng Feng, your time is up. Sha Wenlong gripped his sword handle, slowly raising his broadsword. This is your last chance? Surrender or not? Deng Feng, then face your death. Hum. Around Sha Wenlong's broadsword swirled Gang Qi, poised to behead with one strike. At that moment, Deng Feng, who looked like a walking corpse, finally let out a hoarse voice. Call Chun Sansi. Sha Wenlong paused, reluctantly stopping his sword. If you want to surrender, just nod at me. Why bother asking for him? If you won't surrender, he can't save your life either. I told you to call Chun Sansi. Deng Feng slowly raised his head, looking at him with disdain. Sha, not only are you blind, but are your ears deaf too? You! Sha Wenlong sneered. Fine, let Qing kill you then. Chapter 326. The Battle of Hu Lao _4. Chun Sansi rushed over upon hearing the news. General Deng should have done this earlier. Why endure such torments for so many days? He stepped forward and personally pulled out iron nails thick as baby's fists from the other's body, unlocked the python-like mystic iron chains, leaving behind one bloody hole after another. You! Deng Feng's forehead veins throbbed, but he did not wail in the extreme pain. He weakly fell from the crucifixion stakes, almost stumbled and fell down, and after struggling to steady himself, he said, I've said nothing, yet you release me. Are you not afraid I will rise against you and kill you? If you hadn't changed your mind, why bother calling me over to no avail? Chun Sansi said, The battle is not yet over. With General Deng's assistance, how can our chances of victory not increase by more than just a little? First things first. Deng Feng did not deny it. I do not surrender to Shang. Speak. Chun Sansi asked. What are your conditions? I will help you. Deng Feng slowly said. Just as you said, advance, and then I will wait and see how you sweep the scum of the world away. If one day, You achieve great success and forget today's words. I shall surely take your head. Fine. Chen Sansi agreed without hesitation. Thump! Unexpectedly, Deng Feng kneeled down on one knee. Deng Feng, at your service, Commander. General Deng. Chen Sansi helped him up. There's no need for such grand gestures. You are my senior and also a martial artist who has achieved great success in the Xuanxiang realm. I cannot accept such honor. Times change. Deng Feng's voice was even regaining its strength. Before I agreed, I could call you by your name no matter what, but after nodding in agreement, I must recognize my position. It's the rule, nothing else. Very well. Chen Sansi did not refuse further. May I, Deng Feng, be informed of the current situation? Deng Feng paused. If not, then forget it. He knew very well that being a newly surrendered enemy general, if he wanted to continue mixing in the military, he would need to work hard to redeem himself and prove his loyalty. What could be the problem? Chen Sansi shared the details of the current situation as if on a platter. Trust those you use and use those you trust. Hulaguan. Deng Feng mused. 3,000 men to defend against 100,000, and to hold out for 3 months. Does the emperor of the Shang dynasty yearn for Ziwei Mountain so badly? Well, if you think it can be held, then hold. Please, have someone fetch the other set of armor from my residence, as well as the weapons that were previously confiscated. Shouldn't General Deng rest and recover for a few days? Chen Sansi eyed his bloodied body. Your injuries are not minor. It's fine, Deng Feng replied. Deng is of the body of undying primordium, and without vital injury, I will recover my combat strength before long. Body of undying primordium. One of the bodies of innate martial saint. Its special feature is resilience. Under normal circumstances, as long as one doesn't die, the recovery speed is much faster than that of other people. Good. Chen Sansi took out several healing treasure medicines that the court had given him. Deng Feng was not polite and swallowed them all at once. This medicine is indeed valuable. Once we reach Hulao Pass, I should recover quite a bit. Very soon. Zhao Kong and the others brought armor, weapons, and clean clothes. After getting dressed, Deng Feng once again looked imposing and followed Chen Sansi out of the tent. Sha Wenlong almost doubted what he was seeing. This. Fang Qingyun watched the scene before him, equally surprised. He had memorized the dossiers of well-known generals from Lai State before the war had even started, which naturally included Deng Feng. According to reason, someone like him, even if he had faced the disaster of having his entire clan executed, would not have surrendered. It was truly unbelievable what kind of rhetoric or methods his junior brother had used to even bring such a person over to their side. General Deng, I've been looking forward to meeting you. Fang Qingyun greeted with a fist and palm salute. Having General Deng's assistance in the Battle of Hulao is indeed a stroke of great fortune. You must be General Fang. Deng Feng returned. In that case, let us not waste more time here. Pass on the order. Move out. To Hulao Pass. Tongnan Prefecture. It was March, the time for spring plowing in the eastern regions. Farmers with their families started to get busy in the fields. How was last year's harvest? Did you have any money left over? The crown prince, dressed in rough hemp clothes and leaning on a cane, stood on the ridge of the field and asked an old farmer. Last year our Tongnan prefecture had a good harvest, but what's the use? The old farmer stood in the mud. First there was the spring tax, then the autumn tax, and there were 2 additional rounds of tax collected in between. Come winter, with the war going on, more grain was conscripted. These were at least explicitly stated taxes. Then there were the inexplicable ones: bridge crossing tax, hunting tax, firewood tax, straw sandal tax. Even for raising chickens, ducks, and geese one had to pay tax on top of various compulsory labor tasks. Even in a bumper year we barely managed to survive, let alone save a single copper coin. If there's a drought like in the northern part of Lai State, in Qing country we might starve to death. In many places water conservation was not developed. Therefore, it was possible for one state to suffer drought or flooding while the adjacent one remained unaffected. Wait a minute. The crown prince grew serious. Fellow villager, what did you just say about tax? There's a tax for raising chickens, ducks, and geese? I don't recall such a tax in the Great Shang dynasty. How can there not be? The old farmer said angrily. For every chicken raised, we have to pay. They even begrudge us the eggs a hen lays. Absurd, utterly absurd. Rage appeared on the crown prince's face. He leaned on his cane and shakily moved to the side, addressing his attendant guards. The firewood tax and hunting tax in the southeastern region. I remember they were abolished 4 years ago, right? And what's this tax for chickens, ducks, and geese? Where did it come from? Not a single copper coin has entered the state treasury. Which local official has the audacity to do this? Go check for me. Check. Cough, cough, cough. Chapter 327. The Battle at Hu Lao _5. As he spoke the latter part, his breath was clearly insufficient. Your Highness, the trusted guard Han Yen said with a troubled face. Do we still need to investigate this? Even if the local officials were audacious, they wouldn't dare to blatantly pocket all the tax silver. This must be the doing of the Yen Party, and above the Yen Party. Anyway, Your Highness knows how much the Emperor spends each year. Just the pursuits of seeking immortals and alchemy alone. They account for over a third of the annual tax revenue. We must still investigate. The Crown Prince's voice trembled as he said, Investigate. Yes, I will investigate immediately. Han Yen hastily replied, We'll execute everyone we find. Execute them in pairs if we find pairs. Your Highness, please calm your anger and take care of your health. Go now. Yes, yes. Han Yen hurriedly left. Your Highness, why are you so enraged? The black-robed monk quickened his pace to catch up. It's nothing, it's nothing. The Crown Prince gasped for air. Speak. There's been a problem with the incense offerings. The black-robed monk spoke softly. The folks below say that a vigilante named Zhang Lizi has emerged in Jianghu, continuously sabotaging our incense offerings. Moreover, it seems his craft in incense is quite exaggerated, capable of grasping any amount of incense and refining it instantly. The most crucial point is, this Zhang Lizi seems to know about our affairs. Who leaked it? The Crown Prince did not panic. He quickly deduced. Since this hero Zhang has not disclosed it up till now, it means he is not interested in this matter. He must be a noble person. As long as we do not offend him, it should be fine. Furthermore, we could try to win him over. He would be a great asset to us. Very well. The black-robed monk nodded slightly. This monk understands. Old Yao, wait a moment. The Crown Prince raised his hand, signaling him to stop. Your Highness, do you have any further orders? The black-robed monk inquired. Old Yao, the Crown Prince, leaning on his cane, finally caught his breath and spoke solemnly. What exactly is the cost of following the evil god path? The cost? The black-robed monk's eyes harbored a strange look. It's just that it consumes more incense than usual. Haven't you known this all along, Your Highness? Tell the truth. The Crown Prince looked towards the horizon. I am not blind. Along the way, the Tongtian Dragon King sacrifice, the South Mountain God sacrifice, and various river god sacrifices. It was all your doing, correct? The so-called cost of the evil god path is to use lives of living people, right? To deceive Your Highness is a death sin for this monk. The black-robed monk reluctantly admitted. But Your Highness, you might not be aware. This is the necessary path of the evil god path. If we do not periodically sacrifice living people, the evil god will rage and we will suffer backlash. Heh, I knew it. There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. The Crown Prince first scoffed at himself, then stared at the farmers bustling in the fields, falling into a long silence. Amitba, Your Highness need not blame yourself. The black-robed monk tried to console. All of this was arranged by this monk, and the sin also lies with this monk alone. As the saying goes, if I don't enter hell, who will? The people sacrificed compared to the 10 days in Yunzhou are but a drop in the bucket. After the accomplishment, Your Highness ascends to the throne, sweeps away the decadence across the realm, and restores dashing with a clear administration. These commoners also will have entered the path of great mercy, and in the next life they shall surely receive a good fate. The crown prince did not hastily respond but supported himself on his cane and lent a hand to an old woodcutter passing by who nearly fell. Once there was no one around, he sighed, "Go do it." "Amitba," the black-robed monk said again. "Your Highness, it might not seem like it, but with Lai state stabilized and many states under it, if you could increase the number, you might extend your life considering your health." "Enough!" In the breeze, the crown prince turned his head and forcefully pounded his cane twice on the ground. "How many times do you want me to say it? I do not want any eternal reign. All I want is to use the rest of my life to re-establish the Chao family's realm. This monk will never bring this matter up again," the black-robed monk quickly assured. Thump! The cane fell from the crown prince's hand, and he knelt slowly on the ground, his head heavily touching the mud, leaving a deep indentation. He restrained his voice, his eyes reddening. "My Chao family owes the people a lot. Starting next year, in the eastern region, all places involved in sacrifices will be tax-exempt for 5 years, to recuperate and recover. Amitba, truly a reincarnation of Bodhisattva." The black-robed monk clasped his hands and bowed, then turned and left. Yongyu Prefecture. The vicious siege had already begun. Bang! Marshal Saint Meng Qiuji, carrying his spear, first ascended the city wall. With one thrust of his spear, the horrific power directly shattered 5 or 6 soldiers from Qing country into pieces, their body fragments raining down like hailstones in all directions. "Meng Qiuji, meet your death." King Tang Ligong suddenly appeared from the flank, his dark metal dragon mace whistling through the air. Bang! 2 overwhelming forces collided, producing a sound like the sky tearing and the earth cracking. The bricks under their feet shattered inch by inch, leaving a huge gap in the city wall. Shortly afterwards, Meng Qiuji was forced to retreat, and Daxing's troops also sounded the retreat, signaling a temporary cessation on both sides. "That Meng really deserves to die," Li Gong cursed as he walked towards the central army tent. Fighting and fighting, even spreading lime. Despite being a martial saint, he's using such childish tricks, truly shameless. "Yes." Deputy General Liu Huanrong followed and cursed. "The stuff he spread contains a strange poison. The prince is fine, but the brothers beside him suffered." Chapter 328. The Battle of Hu Lao _6. This person originated from the lowliest of street scoundrels, Li Gong disdainfully said. Now, despite holding a high position, he still has no shame. However, after today's probing, he must understand that a forceful attack won't succeed. Grasping his iron helmet under his right arm, Liu Huanrong said, "Prince, we should still report." An underling interrupted the conversation. "A letter from Nan Su country. They have already reached Ziwei Mountain in Lingzhou, and in about 3 to 5 days, the vanguard troops will be able to move out to the outside of Hulaguan." Without stopping his stride, Li Gong asked as he walked, "What about the Shang people? How have they deployed? Are they drawing the line at Jiaodong Prefecture, expecting to fight a prolonged war of attrition with us?"
No.
The underling reported. "They have dispatched 3,000 troops to guard Hulaguan." 3,000 troops to guard Hulaguan? Hearing this, Li Gong abruptly stopped walking. "Are you sure there's no mistake? Or is it that Fan Tianfa did not go to Green Ridge Mountain but went to Hulaguan instead?" "Absolutely sure," the underling confidently said. "Moreover, they are temporarily short of high realm generals, currently led by Chan Sansi, followed by Fang Qingyun and Sha Wenlong. Calculating from the dates, they should also be arriving at Hulaguan soon." "Who? That Chun Sansi again?" Li Gong dared not underestimate his opponents. Yet, no matter how he thought about it, he could not understand how someone from the Meridian Passage realm, leading 3,000 men, could hold against an army of 100,000 plus 4 generals from the Profound Image realm. Thinking it over and over, the Shang people's deployment could only mean they were desperate, with no one else to rely on. They were set on capturing Ziwei Mountain at any cost. An all-out effort meant they were taking risks, and taking risks could lead to a major collapse. The Shang people have really lost their minds. They are too arrogant. Li Gong coldly snorted. Chan Sansi, a merely entry-level of Meridian Passage, Sha Wenlong only in the profound image realm, and an already crippled Fang Qingyun who might still pose some threat. Are these three supposed to hold Hulaguan? That's a big joke. Pass the intelligence to Shuzhen in Lingzhou. Tell him Hulaguan is guarded by only 3,000 men, and order him to strike swiftly and fiercely at Hulaguan. The faster Hulaguan falls, the more we gain. Retaking the lands of 3 states alone isn't the end. As long as Meng Qiuji dies, we have a 90% chance of capturing the 5 eastern states of Shengren. These 5 states, relying on Tongtian River, are lands of plenty. Lingzhou. 100,000 troops passed through Ziwei Mountain and entered the vast flat wasteland. Their numbers so vast, they appeared like a gigantic dragon emerging from the earth, endless and without a beginning or an end. In this northern expedition, there were 5 high-ranking commanders leading the army. These 5 were Commander, 8th Prince Shuzhen, Vice Commander Marquis Yu Jingji, General and Chief Military Strategist Ling Xuan Ran Jingxian, General Pang Yunheng, and the 14th Prince, Fan Zhouxiao. Central Army. Among the 5 high-level officials, 3 were now gathered here, discussing the upcoming military actions. This northern expedition, our goal is to capture the fertile lands of Lingzhou. Of course, if we could take all 5 eastern states of Shengren, nothing could be better. The Shang people have hoarded the most fertile 36 states for over 300 years. It is time they spit some out. Whether Shang people or Qing country, Fan Shuzhen, clad in golden armor, spoke. Whoever offers us more benefits, we will aid them. Don't truly think about sacrificing our lives for Qing country. Of course, for now, supporting Qing country seems to be our most beneficial choice, and moreover, Sun Xiangzong has disappeared. This is a great opportunity for us. Indeed, Lord 8. Vice Commander Yu Jingji looked at the map before him. It's just, we don't know whether the Shang people have already withdrawn their troops, as continuing the fight brings them no benefits. Even if they withdraw, Qing country must concede Lingzhou to us. Could our army of 100,000 have marched for nothing? As the strategist of this 100,000-strong army, Ran Jingxian elaborated on his plan. Lord 8, Lord Yu, I have already made arrangements. No matter what happens next, we can take Lingzhou quietly. Here are the 2 scenarios I have analyzed. Look! Whistle! While they were discussing, a falcon descended, bringing the latest intelligence. What? The Shang people are crazy? Defend Hulao with just 3,000 men? How little do they regard us? Chun Sansi is in command, with Fang Qingyun as his deputy? Interesting. Fan Shuzhen put down the letter. How do you 2 see this? Ran Jingxian coolly remarked. There's no need to say much about Fang Qingyun. He is an old acquaintance of ours. This Chun Sansi, in just 2 or 3 years, has fought one astonishing battle after another, his previous crossing at Du he needless to mention. His sudden, remarkable action at 4 crossings of Hengze, and now he has quickly moved to the east, pulling off 1,000's flee at the sight of the white robe, causing more stir in 1 year than many see in a century. Only, what were the Shang people thinking? Even if Chun Sansi's strategies are unmatched, he is just at the Meridian Passage, commanding merely 3,000 men. Leaving him here to defend Hulao? Isn't this aiming to get him killed? I also find it strange. Fan Shuzhen rhythmically tapped on the map. Does the emperor of the Shang people absolutely need Ziwei Mountain? It's understandable. Yu Jingji reminisced. Ziwei Mountain is where the great ancestor Shang was enthroned. The humiliation by Mingxian has not been forgotten. Successive emperors have sought to recover Ziwei Mountain to prove their accomplishments. That's not quite it. Ran Jingxian narrowed his eyes. Have you forgotten something? Emperor Longqing is in pursuit of immortal path, and there are numerous legends about grand ancestor Chaoxia. Could it be possible that some treasure of the Chao family remains on Ziwei Mountain? Now that you mention it, It does seem possible, only. Yu Jingji said, Ziwei Mountain has been in Qing country's hands for over 100 years. Even if there was a treasure, it would have been taken long ago. That's where you're wrong. Ran Jingxian declared. The Emperor of Shang people's eagerness to recover Ziwei Mountain suggests that the object might still be there. Of course, it could also be that I'm overthinking, and he simply wants the good reputation of a great reviving leader. Easy to manage. Fan Shuzhen issued an order. Send a message to Pang Yunheng at the rear. Let him search Ziwei Mountain. It would be best if we find something, but it's fine if we don't. The situation is clear. Ran strategist, begin your deployment. All right. Ran Jingxian, known as Ling Xuan, waved his hand grandly. General Peng at the rear in Ziwei Mountain, while searching for the treasure, will also stabilize the rear. Lord Yu, take a troop to control several important towns in the heartland of Lingzhou. Regardless of the outcome, we must take Lingzhou and absolutely not return it to the people of Qing country. As for Lord 8, stay in command of the Central Army for now. Also, send orders to Mr. C in the vanguard to set up camp 50 miles outside Hulao. Once everything is ready, our Grand Army of Desu, 100,000 strong, will march directly to Hulao. Chapter 329. The Daqing Empress. A defeat is settled. Hulao Pass, as one of the most precarious passes under heaven, sat between two mountain peaks from where one could overlook the Lingzhou plain in front and lead an assault into the Lai State Basin in the rear. During times of peace, it served little purpose, but once a war erupted, it became a crucial battleground for military strategists. And not just because of its treacherous terrain. More importantly, Hulao Pass controlled the Jinan River, which after traversing through half of Lai State, directly connected to the Tongtian River and served as a vital waterway for transport. The most crucial aspect was the supply of food and forage. Transportation by land led to substantial losses, hardly 1 in 10 would arrive, but with a waterway, the efficiency of transportation could suddenly increase many times over. That was why it was essential to hold Hulao Pass. Once lost, food and forage could continuously enter Lai State through Jinan River, potentially leading to a prolonged war lasting 2 or even several years. On the contrary, if they could defend Hulao for 100 days more, the provisions at Yongyu Prefecture would be depleted, and the war could end within a few months. Hulao Pass, we've arrived. Far in the distance, 10 miles away, a towering city sprawled amidst the rugged terrain, with adjacent mountain peaks resembling demon suppression pillars, and the pass in between appeared as if it was suppressing a demon tiger. Report. Assistant General Liang Pai. I am the defender of Hulao Pass. An assistant general had come to receive them. Liang Pai. Chun Sansi asked, tell me about the current situation at Hulao Pass. The troop strength is less than 300, and provisions are also insufficient. Liang Pai, looking at the Xuanjia army's robust and formidable horses, said worriedly, especially with so many war horses, the daily consumption of forage is an alarming figure. Fang Qingyun asked, how long does it take to allocate food? The nearby 8 prefectures have run out of provisions long ago. It has to be transported from Tongtian River's dock, and all calculations considered, it will take about 100 days. Liang Pai, with his fists clasped, said, additionally, there is a traitor in Hulao Pass. A centurion who received benefits from Nansu country often leaked information. The person has been killed, and the head is hanging on the city wall. I understand. Chan Sansi ordered. From now on, you and your men will leave Hulao Pass and handle the provisioning matters. I will take over all defensive duties inside the pass. Understood. Liang Pai took his leave. After entering Hulao Pass, Chun Sansi instructed, Zhao Kong, you lead a team of cavalry, scout outside the pass, find out the vanguard's generals and troop strength, then return to report. Yes. Yongyu Prefecture. Report. Prince. Bad news. At midnight, resting in the Grandmaster chair, Li Gong was awoken by his subordinate's hurried voice, and he slowly opened his eyes, saying, Speak. Nang Su. The subordinate reported, the scoundrels from Nansu, after entering Lingzhou, didn't immediately attack Hulao Pass. Some of them went to Ziwei Mountain, while others controlled strategic locations in Lingzhou, killing any officials who thought to resist. Shameless! Deputy General Liu Huanrong cursed. Are they here to be allies? Keep your calm. Li Gong sneered. From the moment we invited them in, Lingzhou was doomed never to be reclaimed. Draft a letter to Shuzhen. Tell him Lingzhou can be his. But remember, quickly take down Hulao. We should not fixate our eyes solely on just one state. Prince. Liu Huanrong muttered. There's something else that's a bit odd. Li Gong glanced at him, saying, You're talking about Ziwei Mountain, aren't you? Yes. Liu Huanrong analyzed. The Shang people are taking substantial risks. It feels rather abnormal. Ziwei Mountain. Li Gong pondered. It's been in our possession for 100 years in Daqing. Although previous emperors have searched, nothing unusual was ever found. Either there is nothing there or only the Chao family can find it. Related to the immortal path? Liu Huanrong said, Emperor Longqing, they say, is truly an immortal. He is. But isn't our emperor an immortal too? Li Gong said sarcastically, What do you think? That woman in our capital, a mere female, has in just a few years under the former emperor's watch won over most officials. And after seizing power through a coup, quickly stabilized the situation. Do you really think she just relied on politics? This? Liu Huanrong was shocked. Prince, I had no idea about this. The world has already changed. Li Gong said with a deep gaze. Grand Ancestor Chao Xia's stories are all true. The reason he was able to defeat more than 2,000 in armor is because he was not merely a martial artist. Centuries have passed, and it is likely that many similar occurrences will emerge. Immortals and immortal traces will continue to surface, and we are merely narrow-minded. If that's the case, Liu Huanrong said, Nansu must also have an immortal trace. Are we really just giving them Ziwei Mountain? That's for the emperor to consider. It does not concern us. Li Gong said solemnly, Our only task is to fight this battle well. And also, have you checked again for information about Chen Sanxi's family? Using the Divine Eagle, it took a lot of effort to mobilize our spies within Shang territory to finally obtain a detailed dossier. It's just that with the battles raged during the day, I almost forgot about it. Liu Huanrong slapped his forehead and hastily said, That Gu Xinlan, exiled from Shang country since Emperor Longqing's 55th year. You surely know more about the events of that year, Prince. But she surnames Gu, a descendant of a Shang dynasty official. What relation could she have with our empress? What if she doesn't surname Gu? Li Gong nodded, saying, I think I know who she is. Let's keep it a secret for now until the war ends. Also, tell Shuzhen, I want Chen Sanxi's head. Chapter 330 Daqing Empress. The defeat is evident _2. By the way, has Deng Feng died yet? We've already sent a Black Hawk to remind him to take his own life. Now that the Xuanjia army is marching toward Hulao Pass, he must be dead by now. Moreover, someone later reported that General Deng had held out until the last moment in Jiaodong Prefecture City. He couldn't bear to implicate his subordinates and the people, which is why he failed to commit suicide. Li Gong nodded in satisfaction. He has done Daqing proud. Once the war is over, ask the Empress to posthumously confer upon him a title. Hulao Pass. Report. Zhao Kong came forward to report, 50 miles outside the city. Nansu's vanguard has been spotted, led by the 14th Prince, Fan Zhouxiao. A conservative estimate puts them at over 20,000 men, camped around Silver Pine Cliff. Judging by their formation, the main force of 100,000 is probably close at hand. The 14th Prince, Fan Zhouxiao. Fang Qingyun recalled this person's history. At only 25, he has already achieved mastery of Meridian Passage, just one step away from being able to hold sway over a region. He is quite the standout among the younger generation of Nansu. Judging from their march, they are planning to take their time. Deng Feng analyzed. Once the 100,000 troops are assembled and they press the attack day and night, It will be tough to hold them back. This battle we simply cannot fight. Sha Wenlong counted on his fingers. 100,000 troops. For mysterious phenomena, even with General Deng and me at the front. How long could we possibly hold out? At most a month, no, 20 days. For the moment, there's only one strategy. Fang Qingyun confidently stated. That is to delay their assembly time. I suggest sending out 500 cavalry to leave Hulao Pass and take a detour, striking their camp at midnight and setting fire to their supplies before making a quick retreat. Then, before dawn, a second raid to throw their vanguard into complete disarray. Of course, at best, this will only buy us 5 to 7 days. And they are not fools. They will certainly be cautious. These 500 men are very likely to suffer heavy losses. Little brother, do you have a better idea? Chan Sansi, after a moment of contemplative silence, slowly began. Elder brother, we cannot hold. Heh, is that something you need to tell me? Sha Wenlong scoffed. If we can't hold, then what? These are the orders from above. Even if it means death, we must die on Hulao Pass and not retreat a single step. The Sha family has been under the imperial grace for generations. It's time to serve the court. General Chun, I hope you don't entertain the thought of retreating. One-eyed dragon. Shut up. Deng Feng cursed him with a face full of disdain. Let the general finish speaking. Elder brother. Chan Sansi looked at the green-robed scholar. What do you think is the best way to defend a city? Oh. Fang Qingyun quickly responded. The ancestor of the military family once said, the attacker owns the heavens. The best defense is an offense, and my earlier strategy also resonates with this adage. It's still not enough. Chan Sansi replied, Elder brother's strategy is indeed the best under normal circumstances, aligning with the ancestor's words and fitting elder brother's deceit. However, for the current situation, it is still not enough. So, you are not planning to use a raid but a frontal assault? Fang Qingyun guessed his younger brother's intention. You're about to build momentum, you want to win. At this point, Fang Qingyun, sitting in his wheelchair, felt a tremor in his heart. He raised his head to look at his younger brother. He suddenly understood Chun Sansi's plan. This battle, 3,000 defending against 100,000. The junior brother of mine, not only does he not want to lose, he also wants to win. 3,000 men wanting to win against an army of 100,000. Whether they can succeed or not is one thing, but just this courage alone, how many in the world possess it? My senior brother understands me. Chan Sansi said, that's why I want to dispel their momentum of attack. A night raid is certainly useful, but its effect is far from as fierce as a bold assault under the light of day. The problem is, Fang Qingyun curiously asked, Junior brother, we lack the numbers. A night raid is a move of desperation. If we face them head-on, how many men do you plan to use? Let me go. Deng Feng couldn't wait to say, give me 300 cavalry, and I guarantee to take the heads of more than 500 and capture 5 generals. General Deng is indeed suitable. Fang Qingyun nodded slightly. What does junior brother think? It's not appropriate. Chan Sansi denied. The enemy's vanguard currently lacks a main general. There's no need for General Deng to take action. Shall I go then? Sha Wenlong, however, was not afraid. No problem. It's not you either. Chan Sansi stood up, slowly putting on his iron helmet. For this battle of Hulao, where the enemy knows that the main general is me, Chan Sansi, only if I go personally, can the effect be maximized. Sha Wenlong asked, how many men do you plan to use? Chan Sansi picked up the long spear from the corner and said indifferently, I alone am enough. You alone? Sha Wenlong was stunned. Have you lost your mind? Chun, General Chun, don't be reckless. Hulao is vital, and as the main general, Chun Sansi cannot afford to put himself in danger. Of course, if this young man doesn't listen to persuasion and dies, then so be it. After all, with Fang Qingyun holding the fort, It's merely one less person who has mastered meridian passage. Chen Shui. Deng Feng asked, "Why not let me accompany you? You should not show yourself just yet. You will be needed elsewhere." Chun Sansi took the iron core bow passed to him by his subordinate and turned to leave the tent. Not long after, the gates of Hu Lao flung open wide. All the generals and soldiers on the city walls several zhang high watched the scene before them. A general in black armor, with a big bow on his back and a long spear in hand, strode boldly toward the wilderness. His pace quickened from a swift walk to a mad dash, like a tiger fleeing Hu Lao and regaining its freedom. His approach was formidable, carrying the wind and rolling clouds with him. Hiss! A horse's neigh like a dragon's roar sounded, merging gradually with the path of the general, then becoming one, disappearing in the blink of an eye onto the endless plains, leaving behind only the dust scattered in the air. Chapter 331 The Daqing Empress. Defeat is inevitable _3. Long spear, white horse, iron core bow. Outside the Hu Lao Pass, charging towards the enemy camp. Though there are millions of men, I am going. Silver Pine Cliff. Nanshu Vanguard. The great army's camp was still being systematically constructed. 14th Prince Fan Zhouxiao personally oversaw the soldiers' actions, knowing that even setting up camp must not be taken lightly. With a treasure sword at his waist, he commanded, "The tents must be solidly built, and preparations for perimeter defense must also be thorough to leave no chance for the enemy army to attack the camp, especially Fang Qingyun." Just now, Ran Junshi specifically sent someone to remind us that he is very likely to use a raid to slow down the speed of our army's assembly and readiness. We must be prepared both day and night. Rest assured, 14th Prince. Assistant General Lang Jiping, the son of a national uncle, was only 22. Yet he had already achieved minor meridian passage. This expedition by Nanshu was regarded as filled with numerous nobles. He said, "Later, I will personally lead a patrol towards the possible directions from Hu Lao Pass to our large camp. It will be strictly guarded to prevent any mishaps. Once the army arrives and we break through Hu Lao Pass, 14th Prince will capture Chun Sansi and Fang Qingyun. And after this battle, you will be renowned throughout the land." Fan Zhouxiao said sentimentally, "We are all about the same age. Yet this Chun Sansi has already been listed in the military books. Before coming here, the scions in the southern study of the Imperial Palace were already learning about the 4 crossings of Hongzhe. I am really eager to meet this white-robed general. Report. 1 mile outside the army camp, there is someone coming to challenge us." Fan Zhouxiao quickly asked, "How many people?" "1. What?" Fan Zhouxiao thought he had misheard. "1 person? Who? Are you sure they're not a messenger but coming to challenge us?" "Chun Sansi," his subordinate replied. "He claims he is Chun Sansi, wishing to see you, 14th Prince." "Good." A murderous intent flashed in Fan Zhouxiao's eyes. 14th Prince, you must not." Lang Jiping hurriedly intervened. "This man is extremely cunning. How could he possibly come to the front alone to seek death? In my opinion, it is most likely a ploy to lure the tiger away from the mountain. I can lead 500 light cavalry there, while you should stay and command the camp against their possible attack." Fan Zhouxiao quickly calmed down. "Then go. But remember to be careful. Rest assured, 14th Prince, it's just him alone. Could he possibly kill all 500 cavalry? At most, he's trying to lure me into a trap, and I simply won't fall for it." As he spoke, Lang Jiping hurriedly left. Outside the great village of Nansu, Chun Sansi sat high on his horseback. "Hear me, Nansu bandits. I am General Hua Yuan Chun Sansi, leading 30,000 soldiers, holding Hu Lao, waiting only for the fall of Yongyu Prefecture before heading south to Lingzhou, to slaughter your assembled rabble of 100,000. Today, I come here to give you a chance to surrender. If you fail to recognize what is good for you, there is only death. Do not listen to his nonsensical talk." Lang Jiping rode his warhorse hastily to the entrance of the camp. "So you are Chun Sansi? I thought you were someone cunning, but it turns out you are just good at bluffing. Your Hu Lao Pass only holds 3,000 men, Yet in your mouth, it becomes 30,000. Ridiculous. Does Chun need to lie to you? Chan Sansi scoffed. If I'm not mistaken, the number 3,000 must have been informed to you by King Tang Li Gong, right? Lang Jiping was silent, which was as good as accepting it. Think carefully, you people of Nan Su. Chan Sansi exclaimed. If he had told you the truth, would you still have helped him attack Hu Lao? Of course, he had to downplay the number of my dashing troops, so you would be deceived into selling your lives for Qing country, right? If I'm not mistaken, Li Gong would have also told you there's no general inside Hu Lao Pass, right? Nonsense. Lang Jiping narrowed his eyes. If there were another general, would it be your turn to take command? Whether there is one or not, you will find out soon enough. Chun Sansi continued. Once Qing country faces difficulty in the battle, it might turn around and join us in attacking your Sioux country. I'm saying all this not to keep your country in the dark. Be wary. Utter nonsense. Lang Jiping's mouth curled up into a sinister smile. Chun, do you think I've been wasting time talking to you here to do what? Dismount and surrender. And maybe you won't be killed. Da. As his words fell, thunderous hoofbeats sounded from the plains on both sides, as 100 cavalry each from left and right closed in from the middle. Chun Sansi. Lang Jiping mocked. What nonsense about 4 crossings of Hungza, 1,000 troops avoiding the white robe. Today, let's see how you leave my Sioux army camp. Brothers, attack. Front, left, right. 3 directions. At least 500 cavalry were there. These had been deployed just as Lang Jiping had arrived. The purpose of the conversation was to buy time, surrounding Chun Sansi. Even if he was a formidable fighter, just being delayed by the cavalry for a moment, the brothers from behind in the large camp would soon arrive endlessly, enough to drown him alive. And now, given the current distance, it was impossible for him to escape. You people of Nan Su truly are deceitful. Chun Sansi, composed on his horseback, cursed. Chun kindly came to persuade you, and yet you resort to such despicable methods. I bid you farewell. Farewell? I'm afraid you won't be able to. Lang Jiping whipped his horse, charging forward at full speed. It was at this moment, the white horse in front neighed, and in an instant, it transformed into a white streak, its hooves seeming not to touch the ground as if flying through the void with unbelievable speed. It managed to escape before the encirclement was complete, leaving them far behind within a few breaths. Chapter 332 The Daqing Empress. Defeat is inevitable _4. What a fast horse. This horse is an exotic beast. Lang Jiping ground his teeth. He felt his face flush with embarrassment. All the grandiose boasts he had made earlier had become a joke. When Chen Sansi came alone to issue a challenge, he had backing to rely on, and had even anticipated that Lang would secretly arrange for an ambush. Assistant General Lang? Are we still pursuing? Another Assistant General Yu Chun asked. Chase my ass. Lang Jiping bit his teeth and said, by doing this, he must have an ambush. If we pursue, wouldn't we be falling right into his trap? Return to camp. Whiz. See. A sharp sound of cutting wind followed by the clashing of armor rang out. A fully armored soldier was shot directly through the heart by a sharp triangular armor-piercing arrow, with his solid iron armor proving as ineffective as papier-mâché. General, that Chun has come back. A mere 300 steps away, the narrowly escaped Chun Sansi returned, holding his iron core bow, without any discernible movement. A whiz sounded, and 3 more cavalrymen fell from their horses. This is too much bullying. Lang Jiping cursed. I've long heard that this man was a hunter and excelled in archery. From 300 steps away, he still possesses such power. It seems it's not just his accuracy that's good. His arrows must also weigh over 50 li. High realm generals, what use are arrows? I just don't believe it. Yu Chan said as he drew his long sword and charged forth, watching as the enemy once again drew his bow. With a light swing of his sword, he intended to deflect the incoming arrow. Buzz! The next moment, He felt the arrow flying towards him as though it were a martial move struck by the hand of a martial artist, carrying a tremendous and tyrannical force that sent his long sword flying. Then, a cold sensation at his throat followed by a suffocating feeling. His head spun, darkness flashed before his eyes, and he lost consciousness, falling stiffly onto the grass with his eyes wide open. One arrow killed the assistant general. Whoosh! The 500 cavalrymen who witnessed this were horrified and shocked. Your arrow, it can carry true power? Lang Jiping could hardly believe it. He had never heard that there was such a divine weapon in the world. Whiz, whiz, whiz. More arrows followed swiftly. Chun Sansi sat leisurely on Chen Sun, with 7 or 8 arrow bags hanging on either side, the bowstring in his hands humming, as if it were a musical instrument, except every note that sounded marked the end of a life. What are you horse archers waiting for? Counterattack, counterattack. Hiding among the crowd, Lang Jiping shouted loudly. The rest of you? Charge for me, he's just one man. He can't possibly shoot all of you dead. Go. Whoever can capture him, no, kill him, will be rewarded 1,000 gold and promoted 3 ranks, with the promise of a rich reward. The cavalry mustered their courage and commanded their war horses to charge towards the white horse ahead. However, the speed at which this young general shot arrows was beyond everyone's imagination. Almost every time they blinked, at least 2 brothers fell from their horses. The dense crowd of cavalry, once they reached Chinsansi, had already suffered heavy casualties, becoming sparse and struggling to maintain formation. And at that moment, Chun Sansi once again retreated, effortlessly increasing the distance between them. As for the Nanshu horse archers, their effective range was only a little over 100 steps. But the white horse general's range was 300 steps, nearly a mile. At such a distance, they struggled even to see the white horse general's silhouette clearly. With such a great disparity, their bows and arrows were completely useless. After several rounds of charges, 500 cavalrymen, only the last 200 remained. General, we can't catch up. The hundreds of cavalrymen, played with as if they were toys. Retreat.
Lang Jiping was incredibly frustrated.
He didn't even care about any ambush anymore. He just wanted to catch up and kill Chun Sansi to relieve his anger. But the problem was, he just couldn't catch up. If this continued, they would all end up dead under the enemy's arrows one by one. At his command, the surviving cavalry turned around and fled towards the outskirts of the great village. However, something even more terrifying happened. They couldn't retreat. Just as effortlessly as Chun Sansi had escaped previously, the white horse easily caught up, following closely behind at a consistent distance of just 300 steps, while he harvested lives from atop his horse. He seemed to be strolling leisurely, but for the Nanshu cavalry, it was a terrifying nightmare. Unable to catch up, unable to escape, they felt less like humans and more like prey trapped in the hunter's snare. General, we are surrounded. Under this dreadful pressure, the Nanshu cavalry felt as if an army was on their trail, and they started to panic, shouting, devoid of any will to fight back, only hoping to get back to the safety of the great village to save their lives. A bunch of garbage. You all go to hell first. Lang Jiping, furious and ashamed, suddenly turned to face the white swan horse and charged at it, holding a wolf-toothed axe, choosing to cover the rear himself. In doing so, if the white horse retreated, the rest of his men might live. If the white horse didn't back down, he could quickly close in and at least have a chance to fight, not dying cluelessly. Whiz! The triangular armor-piercing arrow carrying the true dragon strength roared in. Lang Jiping didn't dare to underestimate his enemy and almost used all his strength to smash at the incoming arrow, blocking it, but under the intense impact, his warhorse seemed to struggle to cope, rearing up on its front legs. Then another arrow came, this one directly claiming the life of his warhorse. Chapter 333, The Daqing Empress. Defeat is inevitable _5. Boom!
Lang Jiping landed steadily.
The speed of the white swan horse did not stop. At this moment, they were only a little more than 100 steps apart. Lang Jiping's blood explosion state was fully activated, and all his energy was added to his speed. A high-realm martial artist's full effort in a short burst could indeed surpass most exotic beast horses, although only for a brief duration. He no longer planned to resist the arrows directly, as that would only exhaust him. Instead, he planned to use his explosive speed to dodge the arrows while quickly closing the distance. Engage. These two words became Lang Jiping's most prominent thought at this moment. Even if he was poor in combat, he shouldn't die without witnessing the spear technique passed down from Sun Xiangzong. As long as he could engage, even if he died, he would die without regrets. Bang! As his body operated beyond its limits, Lang Jiping turned into a shadow, approaching forward at an indescribable speed, his movement ghostly and erratic without any fixed pattern. 80 steps, 50 steps, finally, 30 steps. Chun just pulled the bowstring taut, but did not release the arrow. Indeed, at this speed and with this movement, Chun simply couldn't aim, until the last 20 steps. Buzz! The sound of the bowstring only resumed then. Lang Jiping was already prepared. With a bizarre posture, he forcefully changed directions in an instant, moving away from his original position. However, he couldn't dodge this arrow. He clearly saw that the arrow wasn't shot in this direction just now. He should have dodged it. How could this be? He didn't have time to ponder the reason and could only once again channel his strength into the mithril wolf-toothed axe, smashing towards the arrow, hoping to block the arrow again using the same old trick. But this time, what he saw was not an arrow. It was a Jiao Long. Boom! This arrow contained a power vast like the sea, akin to a frenzied Jiao Long devouring everything in its path. When it collided with the wolf-toothed axe, it produced a sound like a bell being struck. Lang Jiping's arms went numb, the base of his thumb splitting open, even though he used all his strength to firmly grip his weapon, preventing it from being knocked out of his hand. His body still flew backwards several steps under the brutal force and smashed into the hard clay earth. Buzz! The third arrow did not come quickly. The time given allowed Lang Jiping to steady himself. He burst out with the power of a dying beast, dodging to the flank, clearly seeing that this time he could surely dodge it. But still, he couldn't dodge it. The arrows shot by this person were really like a living Jiao Long, unavoidable and soul-stealing. SSS. The heart protector shattered suddenly. A triangular arrow easily penetrated the armor, shattered the bones, and finally pierced through the heart, lodging deeply into the body. Although it did not pass through, the force within blasted his heart to pieces. Hey! Lang Jiping's pupils protruded, blood gushing from his mouth like a fountain, clutching the arrow shaft in his chest. His body rigidly fell backwards, unable to understand why until his death. And he had not even managed to engage, not even qualified. In the end, he lost his breath among a pool of blood, his eyes never closing. Pucci, Chun Sansi, riding Chen Sun, passed by and casually retrieved the arrows embedded in the body. These storage arrows, crafted from ghost vein wood, were only 12 in number and naturally could not be wasted. The reason he hadn't hurried to shoot earlier was that he was storing power. This assistant general, whose name he didn't know after all, was at the Minor Meridian Passage realm. If he hadn't stored power and solely used power at the Meridian Passage mastery level, probably even 3 ghost vein arrows would not have been enough to kill him. Drive! After retrieving them, Chun Sansi once again chased the fleeing Nanshu cavalry. The previous encounter had delayed him only about a dozen breaths' time. With each arrow shot, the remaining 100 riders quickly dwindled to just over a dozen, all high-realm military officers, requiring ghost vein wood to quickly kill. The place was close to the enemy army camp, not suitable to linger, but Chun Sansi, wanting to save time, couldn't bear to waste ghost vein arrows. He finally simply took up a long spear and charged into the crowd, no one a match for him, and each flash of the 5 tigers' soul-breaking spear was accompanied by the sound of a body falling, followed by the frightened war horses running away. Boom! 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 The deafening sound of horse hooves rose as another 3,000-plus cavalry from Nanshu country arrived. Chun Sansi deliberately left 2 survivors, then pulled on the reins and disappeared. Fan Zhouxiao, unsettled in the camp, made preparations to fend off an enemy camp raid, and then decided to lead people out to see what Chun Sansi, on his own, intended by running in front of the Nanshu camp. And then, he saw bodies everywhere. Almost every corpse had an arrow embedded in the heart, appearing as if hundreds of archers had formed an arrow formation, each one a 1 in a million divine archer. Ambush! Form up! Fan Zhouxiao shouted. The 3,000 cavalry formed a defensive array, slowly advancing forward. A few hundred steps further on, he saw 2 injured soldiers screaming as they fled back. What happened? Fan Zhouxiao demanded. Where is Assistant General Lang? Where are the ambushers? Sir 14. There are no ambushers, sir. We're surrounded. It's all arrows everywhere. Thud. The section chief, who had barely escaped with his life, fell off his horse directly. From time to time, he looked back to see if the white horse that took lives was catching up, and even his speech was jumbled. Chapter 334, The Daqing Empress. Defeat is inevitable _6. No ambush, yet surrounded? Fan Zhouxiao furrowed his brows. Rubbish. Do you even hear what you're saying? It's Chun Sansi, the one riding the white horse. Another person, slightly more rational, said. He's just one man. He can't be blocked, nor can he be caught, and certainly not escaped from. Are you saying he alone killed my Dasu's 500 cavalry? Fan Zhouxiao got his answer from the terrified expression of the other. How is that possible? 500 cavalry. That's indeed 500 cavalry. Among them, there are 2 in the Meridian Passage realm and countless in the Huajin. Even if Chun Sansi is brilliant in strategy and tactics, he is only in the Meridian Passage realm. Are you all pigs? Even more terrifying was, from the corpses, the vast majority died from arrow wounds. 1 man, 1 bow and arrow, 1 white horse. Also, how could a bow and arrow kill generals in the Meridian Passage realm? Isn't this absurd? Behind Fan Zhouxiao, thousands of cavalrymen were in utter chaos, as if hearing a wild and fanciful tale. 500 men, 2 generals, not even a touch, and they were all killed? Is there really such a mighty man in the world? How is this possible? While the Nansu cavalry was in shock, a loud voice echoed across the land. 14, young lad. Chun had asked to speak to you before, and you did not show up, which was truly rude. Take this arrow from Chun. 1 kilometer away. An appearance, from a distance, looking like a mere white dot. By the time they heard his voice, an arrow was already flying towards them, and Fan Zhouxiao, in great alarm, hurriedly drew his sword to block it, only then realizing this arrow might be unusual. Clang! The sound of metal striking metal rang out, and sparks flew off the sword from where the arrowhead struck. Even at the last moment, although Fan Zhouxiao managed to enhance his power, he was still blown backward by an overwhelming force and fell off his horse, causing chaos. Protect Mr. C. Form up. Rumble. The cavalry closed in a circle, forming a human wall at the front. Whiz, whiz, whiz. Another dozen arrows came flying continuously, killing all on the spot, except for the high-ranking generals. Shields. Shields. The mystical iron shield arrived too late. This cursed arrow, it can even store power. Fan Zhouxiao picked up the arrow that shot him, infuriated, snapped it in half, and threw it away. Chase him! Mister. See, he's gone. Whiz, whiz, whiz. Chase. He's gone again. This repeated 5 or 6 times. The Nansu cavalry lost over 100 more men. In just half an hour, they were killed by 1 man totaling 600. Retreat! Even Fan Zhouxiao began to panic. Quickly retreat back to the camp. Everyone must hold their positions and not go out, even after they had retreated back to the camp. The White Horse General still forcefully followed and shot dead more than 10 people. It was only after shields were deployed around the perimeter that the situation completely calmed down. Ambush! Go set up an ambush on the flank in advance. If he dares to come again, make sure there's no return for him. Fan Zhouxiao, recalling the scene just now, was still palpably shaken. Quickly go to the rear and find my brother, and tell him he must immediately send a great general over. Hurry. It seemed that, if the front army doesn't have a general of the Xuanxiang realm in command, it's not just about launching an attack. Even setting up camp would be hardly secure. In the central army, Ran Jingxian gently set down the report he was holding. We only remember Chen Sansi for his unconventional military strategies. Yet we've overlooked his natural martial arts talent that allowed him to achieve the Meridian Passage just 2 years into his training. This is a bit too exaggerated, Fan Shuzhen said in disbelief. Normally speaking, with a profound image realm death trap formation, even if the enemy army has generals of the same realm, at most, additional armor could be broken through 500 or 600, let alone the fact that the front were returning without a scratch, absolutely unhurt. If he advances to a higher realm later, is there even any need to fight at all? Inform General Peng, Ran Jingxian helplessly said. Let him return from Ziwei Mountain immediately to the front army, and after we stabilize the situation in Lingzhou, we will also set out for Hulao Pass. Advisor, Fan Shuzhen asked. Once General Peng Yunheng arrives, should we let them launch a couple of attacks to test the waters? After all, Chen Sansi said there are 30,000 at Hulao Pass. Li Gong is deceiving us.
No.
Ran Jingxian countered. Chen Sansi's actions were not to show off. He did it deliberately. Given the uproar, the soldiers of the front army are probably scared out of their wits. Without fighting, their morale has hit rock bottom, and forcing them to attack now would be like sending them to their deaths, impossible to succeed. Instead, let's replace the left army with the front army, wait for General Peng to arrive at the front, rest for 7 days, and then we can consider assaulting the city. Let's follow the advisor's plan. In the evening, Chen Sansi did not continue with the previous tactics. Surprising them once or twice was feasible, but going back now would definitely fall into the well-prepared encirclement. Skill Archery. Perfection exceeds limit by 1 rank. Progress 248/2000. Just as he had predicted, the bow and arrow capable of storing power was a soul-chasing weapon on the battlefield. Coupled with Qian Sun, the effect it displayed was something even the martial saint couldn't achieve. The martial saint also needed face-to-face combat. But he moved without a trace, taking lives from a kilometer away. How could the enemy army not fear? His goal was achieved. This wasn't just a matter of morale. From this moment on, the defeat of the enemy army had silently begun to emerge. 100,000 troops? 3,000 black armor might not be invincible. Chapter 335. White robe forms the heavenly array. Shenzhou reveals its divine might. Skill. Horse control. Small achievement. How Qianshuan. Chen Sansi gently stroked the horse's mane, which in turn demanded a reward, plus a bath. The last few rounds of fighting had been intense. Both he and the white swan horse were covered in blood. You're really getting more and more fastidious, Chen Sansi remarked. Qianshuan's demands for food were getting higher, and so were its living conditions. Of course, you can't expect the horse to run without feeding it. Moreover, in some sense, Qianshuan's role was irreplaceable by any martial artist, so its needs should be met as much as possible. The master and pet arrived at the vicinity of Pai River after arriving at Hulao Pass. Pai River, being a branch of the Zhenan River, was not wide enough for large ships, but the surrounding pastures were extremely lush, suitable for grazing horses. There was a food shortage in Hulao Pass. Later, Chen Sansi could let Qianshuan take 3,000 warhorses out to graze, but this location was visible to the Nanshu scouts. However, sometimes letting the enemy see one's movements could actually be beneficial. Chen Sansi made a mental note of any useful information, then bathed in the river and brushed Qianshuan's fur. By the time they returned to the pass, it was the next day's dawn. My lord! Xia Tsong had been on guard all night and hurriedly came to greet him. Where did you go yesterday? Indeed, my lord. The others also crowded around, almost forming a circle. Yesterday, Seeing the general disappear, they thought something had happened and sent out scouts to investigate. What they found was that the Nanshu forces were collecting bodies. There were also many frightened and uncontrolled horses running wild across the wilderness. In front of the army's main camp, not only was the guard extremely strict, but also shield formations were arranged. It looked as if they had been attacked. And yet, the general had gone alone, hunting. In response to everyone's inquiries, Chun Sansi replied indifferently. Hearing this, Fong Qingyun finally understood what his junior brother had ventured out to do alone. He shook his head slightly, somewhat emotional. He had not understood before what kind of strategy one man could use. But sometimes no cunning tactics are needed, or rather unparalleled combat power is the true scheme that can't be countered. His junior brother was truly frightening. With a bow and arrow, he gave the feeling of killing people with a spell. With this commotion from the junior brother, the enemy forces definitely will not dare to attack again within 7 days, Fong Qingyun said. But judging by the junior brother's current method of combat, you don't intend to give them time to rest and regroup their morale. You must be planning to further strike at their vanguard, right? He knew very well. After this event, the Nanshu army would have to deploy generals from the Xuanxiang realm to command the front lines. If they wanted to further strike at the enemy, the best strategy would be to do it before that deployment occurred. Brother, you're right, Chun Sansi said. We shall launch an offensive in 5 days. Sha Wenlong was somewhat stunned. An offensive attack? General, Lu Shuhua said. According to the messages from our scouts, the Nanshu camp is heavily fortified and does not venture out. Plus their vigilance is extremely high. If we approach rashly, I'm afraid. At that time I will have a way to draw them out, Chun Sansi stated. For the next few days you'll gather 20 sets of general armor for me, half of which must be from Qing country. General armor? Lu Shuhua asked. What's the use of so many high-level armors? It's manageable, Deng Feng said. I will order to bring all the armor of the surrendered generals from the nearby 8 prefectures. Chun Sansi then instructed. Besides that, from today onwards, send out 2,000 people to pasture horses by the Pai River at 5 a.m. and return at evening. Continue this over the long term without concealment. Pasturing horses? I know about the lack of provisions inside Hulao Pass, Sha Wenlong said in confusion. But for pasturing horses, we don't need 2,000 people. The total number of defenders is just over 3,000. Chun Sansi paid him no mind, and after giving the orders, he ate some meat to restore his energy, then mounted Qianshuan with enough provisions, and once again disappeared into the vast wilderness. He made a large detour to observe from the periphery and quickly determined how far he could go without getting surrounded. While he couldn't approach the camp closely, it didn't affect his ability to continue hunting on the outskirts. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In the Nanshu army camp, none of the patrol squads that came out lived to return. In just 2 days, another 200 or so perished under the arrows. Eventually, even the patrolling squads carried heavy round shields, ready to hide behind them at the slightest rustle of wind or grass, and those who failed to take cover properly ended up maimed. Before long, 5 days had passed. The army that nominally numbered 100,000, apart from setting up camp, had not taken any other significant action. Even the scope of their patrols had become increasingly limited, not daring to venture more than 20 miles from the camp. What a disgraceful humiliation! Fan Jiuxiao raged within the camp, his anger flipping a table in front of him. Should my 100,000 army really be stopped by just one man? 14th Master, we're really helpless. Under the current circumstances, it's death upon showing oneself. What's more, that horse of his, it's just impossible to catch up. How much longer until General Peng arrives? It's too far. It'll take at least another 7 to 8 days. Then find my elder brother first, Fan Jiuxiao said. Have him lend me his green horse and also bring a batch of thick iron round shields suitable for cavalry to carry. Also inquire with Li Gong, and tell him to speak the truth about how many there are in Hulao Pass and what the situation in Lai State really is. It's vital for us to know so we can judge how to fight the upcoming battles. There must be no omissions. Chapter 336. White robe forms the heavenly array. Xianzhu demonstrates its divine power _2. Yongyu Prefecture. A bunch of wine sacks and rice bags. King Tang Ligong received the secret letter. Inside the Nanshu army, they also managed to bribe a few mid-ranking officers to receive frontline news. Your Highness. Lu Huanrong was startled. Why such great fury? Look for yourself. Li Gong forcefully slapped the letter onto the deputy general's chest, controlling his rage as he cursed. The vanguard of 30,000 troops hasn't advanced a step in 5 full days. This. As Lu Huanrong browsed the content, he said, Chan Sansi, alone with a bow, terrified the vanguard troops? They also say now that the soldiers sent on patrol demand extra pay. Otherwise, no one is willing to go. Isn't that absurd? Boom, boom, boom. The massive sound of the catapult came through. It signaled the start of another round of the siege. As Li Gong picked up his weapon, he commanded, Send a message. Tell them, Yongyu Prefecture's situation is very promising. The Shang army outside the city is utterly exhausted. If they can break through now, they will surely crush the Shang army in one fell swoop. Don't fear casualties. Don't just focus on preserving strength. And most importantly, do not distrust us. I, Li Gong, guarantee with my honor, swearing a deadly oath on my entire family, that Hu Lao Pass truly only has 3,000 people, and within the profound image realm generals, there's only one at the early stage, Sha Wenlong, and no second person. If we fight, we will win. Wilderness. A secluded, uninhabited area. Chun Sansi was hidden among a pile of rocks, practicing his spear technique. Within the human body, there are 12 primary meridians, 8 extraordinary meridians, plus thousands of minor meridians. Meridian passage method reaching small achievement means opening up 20 minor meridians as the foundation. The more minor meridians opened, the more complex the circulation becomes, forging even purer strength. Previously, opening veins mainly aimed to enhance endurance, whereas opening secondary meridians aimed for a stronger power. There were no barriers. Chun Sansi easily opened up 20 meridians and directly moved on to 100. Only at this moment did he understand the purpose his master had in having him learn so many different weapons and cultivation techniques. Each cultivation technique enabled the opening of an additional minor meridian. Just as Senior Sister Sun had described, high-realm martial artists usually do not train in other cultivation techniques due to their low efficiency. Although each technique does improve one's capabilities, the increment is minuscule. Even for a martial saint, practicing any cultivation technique requires time. Human efforts have limits while cultivation methods are limitless. Many people do not train not because they don't want to, but simply because they don't have the time. Unless someone could truly learn hundreds or thousands of cultivation techniques in a short amount of time, accumulating small amounts to make a terrifying difference. And he, coincidentally, could. By the time the breakthrough was finished, Chun Sansi had already opened up 100 meridians. The first cultivation technique he practiced opened the largest number of minor meridians. For those with lesser talent, this realm typically starts with the minimum standard of 20 meridians. For geniuses, 50. He started with 100, and the key point is, he could still improve further. Currently, he had opened 100 because he had only practiced dozens of techniques due to lack of time. And his intuition told him the number of meridians he opened was linked to the realm above martial saint, not just in contesting strength with others of the same realm. Boom! Casting aside all distractions from his mind, Chun Sansi thrust his spear, and his true dragon strength surged tumultuously. The rock pile in front of him burst open explosively, as if his spear had shattered a majestic mountain.
Cultivation technique, National Gardien Dragon Spear.
Meridian Passage, Small Achievement. Progress, 0/2000. Meridian Passage Realm, Small Achievement. Since the preparation was thorough, Chun Sansi's breakthrough was very smooth. Checking that the time was almost right, he returned inside Hulagwan. More than 20 cavalrymen were present, among whom 10 were dressed in armor that only Qing country meridian passage above generals could wear. All troops, heed my command, Chan Sansi ordered. Follow me straight to the Nan Su raiders' main camp. Remember, none of you are below meridian passage. 20 people, all above meridian passage, and we have an army of 30,000. This tactic is called feigning power. Xia Tsong comprehended. But sir, won't it give us away? After all, the level of realm can't be faked once a battle begins. Exactly. Lu Shuhua and others looked at each other, all somewhat nervous. Our highest is only at Huajin. It would have to come to a fight for it to give us away. Chun Sansi said. Besides, what I want is for them to be suspicious. Once they are suspicious, they will fall into the trap. Senior brother, the rest is all up to you. Little brother, wait for another 3 hours. Fang Qingyun looked up at the sky, his clear voice slowly saying, Start your move at dusk today. The effect will be at least twice as good, and you might even reap unexpected gains. Good. I'll follow senior brother's advice. Chan Sansi agreed. This upcoming battle, I'm only responsible for drawing out the snake. The sequence of arrangements afterwards will have to be managed by senior brother, since I can't possibly supervise both ends. A capable phoenix could not possibly always remain idle. Besides, war is not a one-man affair. To win, one mustn't think of hogging the limelight or getting all the credit. Only when everyone around plays their roles to the utmost can there be a chance of achieving victory through unexpected strategies. Not to mention, Fang Qingyun, as a disabled person, had always been the main general of the Azure Dragon camp, and even the deputy general was at Profound Image Realm great success. If he didn't have real capabilities, how could he possibly command respect? This kind of operation, requiring the use of deceit and clever tactics, was perfectly suited for him, sparing Chun Sansi the need to worry about every detail. Listening to the conversation between the two, the others were full of confusion. They felt that all the arrangements were only comprehensible and manageable by Fang Qingyun alone. Chapter 337. White robe forms the heavenly array. Shenju demonstrates its divine power _3. All the remaining men, like fools, had no idea what would happen next and could only blindly follow orders. What about me? Deng Feng could barely contain himself. Commander Chen, do I not need to come along? I almost forgot. Chan Sansi added. I will trouble General Deng to take off your Qing country general armor and put on a set from our great dashing, along with swapping your weapon for a different one. So, I am to disguise myself as someone else? An air of discontent arose in Deng Feng's heart, feeling that being a captured general and yet having to stay hidden gave off an undignified and embarrassing impression. He found it suffocating and yearned to distinguish himself in battle more than anyone. Of course, he didn't show any displeasure. I understand and accept the command. General Deng. A moment of patience. Chun Sansi informed. Keeping you hidden has a greater purpose. One general like you is worth 3 others. Yes, General Deng. Fang Qingyun spoke. Moreover, I have need of people. Without you, the plan cannot succeed. With all said and done, Chun Sansi quickly left with 20 of his subordinates. Inside the central army tent, only Fang Qingyun, Sha Wenlong, and Deng Feng remained. General Fang, just give the order. Deng Feng bowed with his fist and said, Apart from anything else, below Martial Saint I can slay any foe, and above Martial Saint, I can hold my own for several exchanges. If there's a tough nut to crack, leave it to me. General Fang. Sha Wenlong's tone was noticeably more courteous when speaking to the green-robed scholar. What do we do next? Vice General Chen's shout from the Nanshu camp. Fang Qingyun said leisurely, Do you remember how many defenders he claimed there were inside Hulao? 30,000. Sha Wenlong retorted, bluffing about having 10 times the soldiers we truly possess. Such exaggeration surely can't be very meaningful, right? Exaggeration?
No.
Fang Qingyun's usually gentle demeanor vanished as his gaze turned steely while looking at the sand table. The jade flute in his hand seemed like a sharp sword as it landed on the terrain. If the junior brother says 30,000, then as his senior, I shall produce 30,000 men. Transmit my military order. At evening, 30,000 troops shall pour out and strike directly at the Nanshu camp. Silver Pine Cliff. Nansu camp. Excellent horse. Fan Zhouxiao, mounted on the green horse, felt as if he was flying through the air as the scenery on either side whizzed past. This horse was one of the 3 exotic beast horses possessed by Nansu, notable for its explosive power allowing it to travel over 2,000 miles a day, with a burst speed that could rival a martial artist of the profound image realm. Beyond that, each soldier had a thick iron shield. No matter how formidable Chun Sansi was, he was still just a Meridian Passage martial artist. Even a few months ago in Ming State, he was merely a Hua Jin warrior. Even if he was a genius, at most by now he could have a small achievement in the Meridian Passage, and even if he was heaven-defyingly talented, he was a great success Meridian Passage martial artist with an innate martial body and an exceptionally solid foundation, unbeatable within his realm, not to mention when facing lower realm martial artists. Now, with the green horse combined with the thick shield, he could perfectly counter the enemy's tactics of rapid cavalry movement and tricky archery. Not to mention, his shield was forged from pure dark steel. The majority of so-called dark steel weapons in the army were actually alloys with a mixture of some dark steel, as it was exceedingly rare and impossible to mass-produce. But that didn't apply to high-ranking officers. Fan Zhouxiao's shield was made of pure dark steel, allowing him to channel his power into it, possessing an extraordinary defensive power. Even martial artists of the profound image realm would need several strikes to get through. Once he could close the distance, Chen's advantage in agility would evaporate. At the very least, it would intimidate him. Otherwise, the situation where he swooped in day after day to kill over a dozen riders before retreating unscathed was seriously undermining the troops' morale. It had even progressed to the point where no one dared to go out to urinate at night. Even for relieving themselves, they had to go in groups of 3 or 5, with one person doing their business while the others held up shields. This was simply too humiliating. Through all of history, whose troops had ever been scared into such a sorry state by a solitary man? Moreover, not long ago, King Tang Ligong had sent a letter. This time, he personally guaranteed that there were indeed only 3,000 men in Hulao, with only one profound image realm general. Meaning everything Chun had done thus far was nothing more than bluffing. Because he didn't have the troops, he had to risk coming alone and use these tactics to slow their advance. A hero. Truly, a hero. But ultimately, a mere paper tiger, easily torn apart with a poke. Report. What, is Chun here again? Fan Zhouxiao understood the answer just by looking at the messenger, and said coldly. With many shielded ambushing soldiers set up around the camp now, he still dares to come alone courting death? Not alone this time, the scout replied. He's leading about 20 riders, and all outfitted in finely crafted general armor, claiming to be 20 Meridian Passage generals. They're not approaching the camp. Instead, they're outside, slaughtering our ambushing soldiers. Within 2 hours, already, over 200 of our brothers have fallen.
20 Meridian Passage Général?
A huge joke. Fan Zhouxiao cursed. My 100,000-strong army has only about 30-something Meridian Passage practitioners in total. To say nothing of his 3,000, even if there really were 30,000, at most they wouldn't have more than 10 Meridian Passage practitioners unless he brought all his main forces to Hulao. This Chun, his bluffing is a bit too exaggerated. Among them, the scout said, half of them are wearing Qing country armor. Chapter 338. White robe forms the heavenly array. Shenzhou demonstrates its divine power _4. Qing country's armor? Unless Yongyu Prefecture was completely ruined, where would there be so many surrendered generals from Qing country who could open their Meridian Passage? Moreover, surrendered generals are generally dispersed and used separately, and no one has ever heard of someone with the guts to gather newly surrendered generals for use together, let alone send them out for guerrilla warfare. How is that possible? Fake. Fan Zhouxiao was certain, and then he asked, where are they now? His subordinate immediately brought over a map and circled the location of the 20 or so cavalrymen. Keep it quiet. Fan Zhouxiao resolutely said, "And don't let the brothers who were informed of this position retreat. Have them strike twice more, pretending we know nothing, and step by step lure the enemy deeper. The rest listen to my command. Vice General Zhang, I order you to lead 3,000 men from the left front army and take a detour from the northwest to directly block their retreat. Vice General Gao, Vice General Liu, you two call upon 3 more vice generals, then split 2,000 men each from the left and right wings for a pincer attack. Another 4,000 men and 1 vice general to follow me for a frontal assault, and all generals with Hua Jin or higher should carry shields and be in the very front. The remaining 20,000 men are still to firmly hold the great village's army camp. Should there be any situation, then choose a moment to leave the camp for support." Martial saints from Nan Su weren't numerous, but over the years they had been cultivating strength and vitality, so there were quite a few mid-level generals capable of opening their meridian passage, matching the number of the 8 camps. 10,000 men plus a full 6 who could open their meridian passage. The front army had almost mobilized half of them. He didn't believe that they couldn't encircle and kill 20 men. He wanted to see exactly how many of them were real generals who could open their meridian passage. Mr. C. Vice General Zhang hesitated. "Could there be an ambush?" "Ambush," Fan Zhouxiao scoffed. "Do you think I would mobilize 10,000 men just to deal with a mere 20 cavalrymen? I am waiting for their ambush. With 3,000 men holding the fort, they could at most bring out 1,000 men for an ambush. After all, they'd still need to leave people in the city for support in case of emergencies. A mere 1,000 men, even if there's an ambush, plus Sha Wenlong being there, how much could our 10,000 men possibly lose? Not to mention the over 20,000 men in the camp for support. He was aware that there must be an ambush awaiting them. But the problem was that they had no choice but to fight this battle. It was a sheer compulsion. This was an overt scheme. Brother 8 and Ran Jingxian were still dealing with Lingzhou, and it would take a few more days for General Peng to return. If they continued to slaughter like this, how could they even think about attacking the city afterward? Attack? Ridiculous. The vanguard, how can it bear the edge without the edge itself? If the edge was gone, how could it be possible to take the city? These past 2 days, he also followed Ran Jingxuan's orders to switch the front army with the central army, and just after a batch of fresh troops had been rotated in, they had been scared witless within a few days. If this continued, the Dessous army would psychologically collapse. No matter what, he had to curb their arrogance. And this was definitely not underestimating the enemy and being reckless. Fan Zhouxiao had real data on the enemy army's combat strength and troop numbers. It was a deployment based on a force several times greater than the enemy's, fail-proof. Rumble. Just at that moment, a clap of thunder resounded above the heavens. Somehow, the clear sky had been covered with a layer of thick black clouds, and after the lightning, it started to pour heavily, quickly turning the wilderness into a muddy land. "It's raining, General. Shall we still pursue?" What a question! Fan Zhouxiao drew his treasure sword. Whoever kills Chen Sansi will be made a noble. Rumble. The army of 10,000 raced into the curtain of rain at the fastest speed. Because the rain came too suddenly and too heavily, enveloping everything like a waterfall falling from the 9th heaven. Everyone was drenched and visibility was greatly hindered, making it extremely low. Z. Chen Sansi speared the only remaining sentry to death and, looking at the terrible weather, knew in his heart that this was why his senior brother had waited until evening to act. He was waiting for this rainstorm. Heavenly phenomenon. Just like Su Wenkai, Brother Fong could also read the heavenly phenomenon. With this ability, coupled with the precise judgment of timing, the heavenly timing part of the favorable conditions of heaven, earth, and humanity could always be firmly grasped in hand. And in this world, he was not the only one with the talent of a commander. This battle would certainly showcase Brother Fong's maneuvers. Initially, the surrender of Lai State was broken down into 5 steps. This time, the defeat of Nan Su's 100,000 army would also be in 4 steps. His lone bow had shot down 600 for the first step, creating momentum. Today's second step, gathering momentum, would be left to his senior brother to complete. Speaking of the heavenly phenomenon, Chun Sansi couldn't help but think of the old scholar. Counting the days, it had been months since Su Wenkai went to the U-State border to deal with the rebel army and the Wei country supporting them in the dark. He wondered how the battle there was going. Kill! Boom! The resounding cries of battle mixed with the thunder. General! Xia Tsong hurried over, wiping the rain from his face. They're here. People are everywhere. Now we can only flee towards the northeast. Otherwise, we'll be surrounded very soon. Yes. Xiaozheng followed. The rain is too heavy. I can't see clearly. Just from the sound, I can tell there are several thousand men in each direction. So many people? Yan Chongqing said sarcastically. This Mr. C of Nan-Su country is really desperate to kill us, using so many men to kill just 20 of us. Following what Xia Tsong said, Chun Sansi commanded, "Move towards the northeast." "Sir, there's a problem," Lu Shuhua said. "If we head northeast, wouldn't that take us further away from the route back to Hilagwan? Heading northeast will take us into the gorges of Silver Pine Cliff where General Fong, General Deng, and the others will meet us." Chapter 339. White robe forms the heavenly array. Shenju demonstrates its divine power _5. Chun Sansi spurred his horse to take the lead. The rest followed closely behind. "Sir," Xia Tsong said worriedly, "could there be too many pursuers? Can General Fong and the others hold them back?" "No need for idle talk. Giddy up." Chun Sansi sped up. On one hand, he had a clear understanding of the situation, and on the other, he trusted Fong Qingyun. Moreover, Commander, if he does not know how to use his men and insists on doing everything himself, can he still be called a commander? That would make him a vanguard, a mere man. Buzz! Chun Sansi, hearing the sound of hooves behind him, turned and fired an arrow. The willow leaf arrow, powered by true dragon strength, tore through the rain curtain. Its accuracy and strength were seemingly unaffected by the heavy rain, thanks to the assistance of the powerful force. 1 Li. His effective range did not require a breakthrough to be improved, it was just that the regular improvements were insubstantial. After a breakthrough, the increase would surge. Now, with the improvement in his proficiency, it had officially gone from 300 steps to over 400 meters, up to 1 Li. At such a distance, coupled with the pouring rain, it was impossible to see clearly, let alone hear the sound of a bowstring being drawn and released. Only when the arrow was 20 steps away did Fan Zhouxiao, riding at the front, suddenly realize the danger and hurriedly infused his strength into the mystic iron shield to block it in front of him. Buzz! Even so, the immense impact still caused Fan Zhouxiao to reel backward, but he was, at least, unharmed. He rejoiced in his heart. It really works. Brothers, hold your shields tight. Without his arrows, Chun Sansi is useless. Kill! Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Chun Sansi shot several arrows in succession. Each time the feedback was the sound of metal collisions. Obviously all were blocked. In fact, even with shields, ordinary cavalry would find them useless. The sheer impact of the pure force could blow them away. The problem was, the number of ghost vein arrows was too few. He only had 10 left in his hand, and he really didn't want to use them all up. It seems necessary to sort out the black bear after getting back, to obtain another robust piece of ghost vein wood. If seeking Immortal Tower could provide some more metal, it would make the use of ghost vein arrows unrestricted. However, if he couldn't shoot people to death, couldn't he shoot horses? Chun Sansi, through the waterfall-like rain curtain and using his chi observation skill, locked onto his targets. He slightly lowered his aim and within a single breath, 3 arrows shot forth. Hiss! The cries of the warhorses rose. Several cavalrymen fell to the ground, and the cavalry charging from behind had no time to stop. Either they trampled their fallen comrades to death, or both rider and horse were tripped, suffering the stampede of those coming after. Essentially, each fall brought down a good number of others, and one could not get up even if they weren't killed outright. In the pitch-black rain curtain, a voice louder than thunder boomed. Nan-Su rebel. Dare you pursue us further? You have already been surrounded by my 30,000-strong army. Dismount and surrender quickly, or you will all die here at Silver Pine Cliff today. Bullshit. Fan Zhouxiao cursed. You couldn't have more than 3,000 men at most inside Hilaguen? Stop bluffing. Don't believe it? Then keep chasing. Chun Sansi's white swan horse was fast enough. But the rest of his subordinates clearly weren't enough. As a result, he had no choice but to continuously fire arrows while falling back. Even so, the distance between them kept getting closer, until two giant mountain peaks appeared ahead, and more than 20 cavalry took advantage of the rain curtain to slip into the canyon, suddenly disappearing from view. Boom! Ha! Fan Zhouxiao reined in his horse, stopping, and the thousands of cavalry behind him along with thousands of infantry all did the same. General, this area is narrow. There must be an ambush. Scared of what? Charge in for me. Fan Zhouxiao roared as he swung his long sword, fearless as a descending tiger, leading the charge into the canyon with cavalry swiftly following. Kill! It was at that same moment. Swish, swish, swish. Boom! Above the canyon, countless arrows fell like a waterfall in the rain, accompanied by endless rolling stones and falling wood. Ambush! There's an ambush! Look at the top of the canyon, everyone. Crack! Thunder sounded. Above the canyon, it teemed with people, densely packed. At the highest point, a wheelchair quietly appeared, and with the help of the lightning, everyone could barely make out a scholar in a Confucian robe. With such an imposing manner, other than the widely known Mr. Feng Chu, Fang Qingyun, who else could it be? Standing beside the wheelchair, Wang Ji shouted from his high vantage point, General Fang Qingyun of the Azure Dragon Camp commands here. You have fallen into our encirclement. Surrender quickly to avoid death. Fang Qingyun. It seemed. Everyone had been so focused on White Horse Chun Sansi that they had forgotten about Mr. Feng Chu, Fang Qingyun. Ah! In the midst of the canyon, the ambushed cavalry were dying one after another, with casualties surpassing 100 in an instant. But at that moment, Fan Zhouxiao suddenly looked up and burst out laughing, ha ha ha. From atop the canyon, Wang Ji rebuked sharply, Hey, you brat! What's so funny when death is upon you? I laugh. Fan Zhouxiao shouted loudly. I laugh at that white robe who lacks clever plans, and Phoenix who is short on wisdom. Do you really think I'm a fool? Knowing there are ambush troops inside the canyon, would I still enter, increasing my own casualties? I merely used myself as bait to lure you big fish. Fang Qingyun, look at both sides of the canyon. You're surrounded. Boom! On both sides of the Silver Pine Canyon, 3,000 elite soldiers were raiding from each side. Carrying the flag of Dessous, they attacked silently, assaulting from the flanks toward the top of the canyon. Chapter 340. The white robe lines up the heavenly array. The Xianzhu displays its divine might _6. Fang Qingyun, Chun Sansi. Stop blustering here. Do you think I don't know you have only 3,000 men? The forces you've mobilized to ambush us won't exceed 2,000. Fan Zhouxiao raised his sword towards the sky and shouted. And today, I've mustered more than 10,000 men, along with 6 at the mastery of Meridian Passage, and we've been ready to enter the ambush from the start, just to lure you out. Once I capture you too, my vanguard will immediately head for Hu Lao Pass. Slay the white robe, capture the phoenix, guard Hu Lao. Today will be the day Fan Zhouxiao becomes renowned throughout the world. What a tremendous feat it would be, a marvel unseen for 100 years. At the peak of the valley, Fang Qingyun sat in his wheelchair under an umbrella, letting the torrential rainfall pour heavily from the sky, yet not a drop touched him. He simply pointed with the flute in his hand towards the young general riding a green horse below and laughed uncontrollably, unable to hold back his amusement. His laughter was soft. It sounded like he was guiding a child in a game of chess upon discovering the child's naively misplaced move, with not the slightest hint of ridicule in his voice, but rather a touch of concern. Fang Qingyun. Fan Zhouxiao froze, feeling first insulted and then inexplicably panicked. "What are you laughing at?" "Oh me." Fang Qingyun shook his head. "I'm laughing at myself for not having fought a battle in so many years, and now even a greenhorn insists on taking me prisoner." "Stop pretending to be calm," Fan Jiuxiao exclaimed through clenched teeth, seething. "You only have 3,000 men under your command, an entry-level in the profound image realm. That's straight from the mouth of alias King Li Gong of Qing country. With such a small number of troops, even you will be encircled and trapped by me today." "Oh," Fang Qingyun chuckled. "Tell me, Mr. C, is there a chance that Li Gong deliberately misled you, and we actually have 30,000? "Bullshit," Fan Jiuxiao retorted. "Do you take me for a 3-year-old to be fooled?" Though he spoke defiantly, deep down, he dared not linger any longer in the valley. Raising the mystic iron shield, the explosive force of his green horse carried him through the arrow-strewn gorge in a few breaths, taking him back to the expansive wilderness. At the same time, a series of disastrous news kept ringing in his ears. "This is bad. Mr. C, they are on both sides. We've been surrounded. If we keep attacking the mountain top, we'll be caught in a pincer attack and have no choice but to rendezvous with you." Lu, Assistant General, and Vice General Zhang did not go up to attack the mountain top, but instead gathered together with their troops towards this side one after another in the pitch-dark rainy night. Over 10,000 men scared out of their wits. "It's impossible, absolutely impossible," Fan Jiuxiao bellowed in the rain. "They have no more than 3,000 men. How can they possibly surround our 10,000? "Mr. C, it's true, absolutely true." Fan Jiuxiao looked up to Fang Qingyun perched atop the cliffs and completely lost his nerve. "If that's the case, then we retreat." He did not believe the Shang people had 30,000 men. This wasn't just blind faith in Li Gong, but based on the situation at hand. The Shang people had their limits in terms of manpower. Deployed in Lai State while also contending with Emperor of Qing's army in Green Ridge Mountain, plus Yongyu Prefecture, practically speaking, the number of forces they could rear out to Hulao Pass was at most 5,000. Unless Li Gong had indeed already been decisively defeated, and the forces at Yongyu Prefecture were down to less than 10,000. Only under those circumstances could the Shang people possibly allocate over 30,000 troops to Hulao Pass. But even that seemed unlikely. Yongyu Prefecture, after all, was one of the most fortified cities in the world, and they still had several months' worth of supplies. Plus, with Li Gong as a martial saint, even amongst martial saints he was known for his exceptional combat ability, how could he have been defeated so quickly? This battle, Fang Qingyun was most likely employing some sort of deceitful strategy. He was the founder of deceit, after all. However, Fan Jiuxiao saw no need to continue taking risks. So far, they had only lost a few hundred men. If they retreated to camp, it would be as if nothing had happened at all. "Retreat. Mr. C, we can't retreat. We're genuinely surrounded. Follow me and retreat. The whole army with me." Fan Jiuxiao shouted loudly, leading the masses towards the south to retreat. Crack! Just then, a bolt of lightning lit up, revealing the scene on the vast wilderness ahead. Rainy night, wilderness, lightning. Armies, horses, weapons of war. As far as the eye could see across the plains, there were masses of people, countless gleaming points of cold steel flashing under the electric light, much like the ghostly soldiers of the underworld come to claim souls, and judging by the brief visibility provided by the lightning, there were at least 10,000 men. "There are forces in the south, head west." Fan Jiuxiao ordered a change of direction for the main force. Yet, no more than a mile out, the same scene unfolded before them. To the east, just the same. Across the wilderness, the masses surged, war horses neighed, numbers indiscernible, and finally, even the recently exited gorge was tightly sealed off, as if enemies surrounded them from all sides, with pursuers everywhere. Could it be? There were really 30,000 men? Fan Jiuxiao was terrified. The alias King Li Gong was not just lying. He himself had also been utterly defeated? Otherwise, where did all these men come from? National Stabilizing General Sha Wunlong is here. The menacing Sha Wunlong, wielding a heavy broadsword, charged forward, followed by a dense array of black armor iron cavalry. Don't panic. Having learned with Zhong Hu and Ran Junshi, Fan Zhuxiao soon steadied his nerves in this unclear situation. Mystic Iron Shield, Confinement Formation. Don't be afraid. Sha Wunlong is merely an entry level in the profound image realm. 3 assistant generals at mastery of Meridian Passage in formation can contain him with just 2,000 men. The rest keep breaking out.